Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, September 19th, 2020. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Sleepy time.
And Robert Kemp.
Yeah, I'm feeling that. Proper sleepy week for me.
Yeah, it's been real bad.
What's made things so soporific?
I don't know.
The return of summer.
Well,
yeah. Is this an Indian summer? Does that count? I guess. It's not been very long.
Define an Indian summer to me. I don't really understand.
It's just a stupid term for like a late warm period in the year.
Oh, okay.
And one time at Karma Armor, my previous company, they were all about parties and something, but they never got their summer party organized. So then they were like, "Oh, we're super late. Okay. Oh, but we can call it like this is because Karma Armor is an advertising agency, and they had the stupidest ideas. And they were like, "Oh, we can call it. We can make an Indian summer party, right? And we can do curries and have all of this stuff, and decorate everything all South Asian, and that would be great." And so they did it, and I looked up what Indian summer means, and it's not. It's American Indian. It's not.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's completely the wrong. They got completely the wrong etymology. It's like, wow, how did you manage to make this racist? Amazing.
Well, it would have been racist either way.
Yeah, probably. It's an outdated term. Anyway, there you go.
Was it good? Did you have
the party?
Anyway?
Was good. Yeah, it was just completely the wrong term, but never mind. It was fun. I mean, all the Karma Armor parties were fun because they were just like, open bars. And sometimes when they ran out of booze, like you'd see like the head of the company across the street filling up, shopping trolleys with booze in Tesco's, trying to keep the party going.
Sorry. Making a little audio adjustment. I'm still here.
Yeah. Good. I mean, I guess it was the closest you could get to actual Mad Men in the post 2010s.
Just without all the smoking?
No, yeah, didn't have the smoking, but the drinking and certain other things.
Certain other things.
Yeah. I once met a girl who briefly worked for Red Badger with me, and who'd worked at Karma Armor, and so it's like, you know what it was like, and she'd only been there briefly, and she was like, yeah, it was like working in a nightclub, and I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of was.
Huh?
Yeah. She left after she found something in a drawer. Yeah. She was like a PA. Yeah. Anyway, yeah,
we're not painting this company in a good light, are
we? I mean, now they got bought by Accenture and they've been boringified to the max now, so it's pretty much dead. But what did they have? They a lot of neon in the office. They had a giant neon sign that said "Work hard, play ping pong" or something like this, because they had like a big ping pong room, air conditioned, with multiple tables and stuff like this.
Of course.
And they had a neon sign that was meant to say, I don't know German. It was meant to say "No wankers, please." Right? Because that was their policy, was like no wankers, which wasn't obviously kept to, because there's tons of wankers in advertising, obviously. But their idea was "No wankers, please." So they had that whatever it was in German in huge letters. But whenever any German clients come around, they were like, why do you have to have a giant sign saying "No wanking"?
Oh, right.
Because it said "No wanking, please."
Oh dear, not quite right.
Like, did you have a problem with this in the office? You had to have a huge sign installed?
Was it from your German employees?
Yeah, for Germans in particular. Yeah, that was pretty stupid.
Why? I mean, why even risk it? Like, if you don't speak German,
I don't know. Somebody's stupid idea.
Was it to hide it slightly? So like, if they actually had a business meeting and someone walks in and they're just like, they're like, what does that sign on the wall? Oh, it's some German myth that we like that we can't talk about.
It was just really stupid office. You can Google it, listeners. Just Google Karma Armor office. There was a fridge once they had, like one of those glass fronted fridges, and they put in for like, the idea was, I don't know, it was a stupid idea, like everything but for like people who were working late, working hard or whatever, it was like, if you're in the office after 8 p.m. working, you have free access to everything in this fridge. Which was kind of cool, but also like encouraging people to work over hours when you should just go home and live your life.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they, for a joke, also they put like a big box of condoms in the fridge, like wink wink or something. But I was like, can you keep
Also,
condoms in the fridge? Like, are they still going to work? Is the rubber going to break down? If is that a good idea to keep condoms in the fridge?
I don't know, and also very much the wrong message for a company to set.
Well, it depends, right? And they were trying to cultivate this image of being like, wild and creative, and that people would come to them and pay them for like fun, crazy ideas. And all they ever came up with was like
HR nightmares.
James Corden driving a Mercedes, or that's a bad advert, isn't it? Like, what else?
Was that? Oh, right. That was them.
Yeah.
Those
Confused
like You on a Good Day or something. Was it Confused or? Yeah.
I don't even know, because I don't watch any TV.
No, that was Barocca, wasn't it? You But on a Good Day.
Sorry. They did. Yeah.
It was something like that, wasn't it? It's like, or was that So Money? Well, it might have been Money Supermarket, because he was like, when good things happen to him, he's like, it's So Money Supermarket right now, or something like that.
That might have been them. I don't remember what. I remember they did a beer advert for like Cobra beer, which had like a triple whammy of stupidity. Number one, it was based on a pun, or a play on words.
So there were snakes.
No, it was so the name of the beer is Cobra, right? So it was
bra. Is this the bra one?
Yeah, Braco. Yeah. So they were like, oh, this super smooth guy. They got this like incredibly beautiful like Indian actor model guy to be in this advert, and it was like, oh, this guy, like, by day he makes the most amazing beer, Cobra, but by night he, for some reason, designs brassieres at Braco or something. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool to make brass, apparently. And I'm like, this is really dumb. It doesn't make any sense, and it's definitely sort of sexist. I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
I can't quite decide about that very point. It's like, is it sexist that he goes to work with boobs at night?
With boobs,
or is it that he's making a feminine piece of clothing, which isn't strictly like something that a man tends to do?
No, maybe it's progressive.
I don't know.
Yeah, modern man, Renaissance man. Either way, I don't.
Is that the perfect man in a woman's eye? Like all man during the day and. That should be the other way around, really. Surely, should it?
That gives them decent support and tasty beer. The perfect man, and is really good looking. Yeah.
And then anyway, you have a Cobra, and they're like mildly disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, well, what they were trying to do was like, because they were the brand of beer that you buy in Indian restaurants, and they were trying to actually get into pubs. I don't know how well that worked.
I don't think it did.
No. They did another thing where they were like scientifically designing, because you know how nowadays in pubs the beer comes in a glass that's actually the glass, the themed on the what do you call it, branded glasses. So if you buy a Peroni, it comes in a Peroni glass or whatever.
Yeah.
So they each have a glass or whatever. So they were doing the Cobra one for pubs, and they tried to do some kind of weird. What's scientifically the perfect way to like pour the perfect Cobra pint or whatever? And it had like a weird groove in it that like was supposed to like swirl the beer around or something. I don't know. Don't know if you've ever seen those. Some
kind of anti-head swirl or something.
Yeah, exactly. In the glass. It's kind of weird.
Huh.
I mean, that was kind of cool, to be honest. But
I mean, I do like the odd novelty pouring technique, and I do like a branded glass. They are kind of cool.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
But like training bar staff to actually use it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you? I mean, question number 1: how many times have you ordered a Guinness? Question number 2: how many times you've ordered a Guinness and the stuff bothered to put the shamrock on top?
Right. Yeah.
Which is supposed to do by like sort of moving it around at the end of the slow pour.
I'm not a big Guinness guy, but I do like it. I just don't tend to
like a
order
Guinness,
it. I don't tend to order it for some reason.
Well, I'm not really. I'm not sure I'm in many pubs where Guinness is an option, or conversely, where Guinness is an option, there tends to also be like a guest ale or something like that,
Yeah.
which I'm immediately drawn towards.
Yeah, sure. You want to try out new stuff, and yeah, this is England after all.
Yeah.
Anyway, how did I get
land of ale and kobolds? Wait,
exactly.
Loughborough.
Loughborough.
Anyway,
what
beers,
the hell?
Beers, bras, and Carbarama.
Yeah, why will we talk about my old job again?
I don't know.
Anyway,
offices, Indian summers. Parties.
Oh, Indian summers. That's
Backtrack.
Right. Yeah, so it's hot. That's what we're saying.
Feeling hot. Yeah, it was surprisingly hot on my run this morning. It was a bit toasty. No made a good one this morning. I shouldn't really talk about my wife's running, but she thought she was on like a really bad one, and how it was getting quite angry with herself. And then it was like, oh, I give up, and walked a chunk of it to the finish, and then when she gets home and after sort of pouting about it for a bit, and goes, oh yeah, that was like quite a lot faster than normal.
Right. She looked at the actual pace. Yeah.
Even with the walking at the end, there's just that was quite fast.
Yeah.
So now
like
you just
long.
now you just have to be angry all the time you run, and then you'll run faster. Apparently,
I do find that helps. If I'm in a bad mood, like, and not in a kind of like can't be asked kind of mood. If I'm legitimately angry at
annoyed,
which isn't something I'm known for these days. I'm not a very angry person now.
No.
But it's just when I am miffed about something, I will have a pretty decent off the block pace.
Yeah.
Which then will fade, but it happens.
Yeah. Got to get that energy out somehow. It's a good way.
Got new shoes coming this week, so I'm looking forward to that.
New shoes.
Done like about that time. I'm.
What kind of shoes do you go for these days? Like, what's your style?
I'm currently wearing the Asics GT1000 version 7.
Oh, you mean running shoes?
Running shoes.
Specifically. Okay, yeah.
Context.
I know. I thought you were just switching to like I'm buying new shoes, not related to the running.
Switching my shoes. Well, no, I wear what's comfortable. So like I'm still wearing those Skechers most of the time because they're super easy and really quite comfortable. I forget which one they are. They're one of the sort of like Go Walks, I think, something like that. Skechers Go Walks, but they're really because they've got that foamy base in them. Oh, it's so nice. Yeah, do those for casual. But I've got some random pairs of old running trainers I will occasionally wear, or old boxing shoes randomly for going in the loft.
Yeah, convenient.
Although I may upgrade to a pair of old running shoes to go in the loft.
Yeah, that'll work.
But yeah, no, I'm changing. I require a supported running shoe.
Oh, cool. That's what I have.
Sort out overpronation, which is what most people have, in fairness. Most people who pronate will over rather than under. So yeah, I need a shoe to deal with that. So yeah, I ordered another set from the same version from Asics, because this is the thing about running shoes. It's like a lot of runners complain about it, that the companies feel like they have to keep bringing out new shoes, right? And so they'll update their popular or even the unpopular shoe lines, and then with this is this year's version, and then they'll change it just enough so the runners that were using the previous one don't like it anymore. So yeah, you're back in the whole situation where it's like, well, you've just alienated the people who liked your shoes, and now we have to go find another shoe to wear. Or you've just encouraged people to go find like cheap pairs that other people didn't like off eBay. It's kind of dumb. So I found a set of the same version number, but with a bit more cushioning. The GT2000s, so they should be the same, just with a bit more cushioning. That's what I'm wearing.
Sweet.
Which would be nice, and hopefully sort out a bit of ankle pain I've been having for a while now. I'm attributing it to the shoes for now. So we'll see. We shall see. I guess you're running a minute.
The running
Hot
minute.
running.
What's your shoe situation, Zeg?
Same as it's been for many years.
How many holes?
I'm not only in the shoes at the moment, the slippers are getting holey.
Yeah. I never had
It's
any good slippers that like worked, and then my brother like left me or had some at Christmas or something, and he kind of left me them. And they've been really, really good, like because they're like sheepskin or whatever, inside out. And I'm like, oh, finally found some good ones. So now I need to find when I need to replace these like random ones, like how to get proper sheepskin slippers.
I don't really like slippers.
Yeah, I never
No.
did. I don't like them when they have no back or they haven't got a proper, because they don't keep. They can't.
Oh no,
keep
I
the
hate
front part of
those
your
ones.
feet warm. Doesn't work.
Yeah, the ones that have only like got a toe cover. And
Yeah,
then
they
just a
suck.
flat panel. Yeah,
Yeah.
What are those about?
I don't get it.
They seem like a pain. They're a little bit like flip flops to me. Actually, flip flops are kind of a pain.
Yeah.
If you've ever been on like a spa weekend.
Yeah, I tried to get some for a holiday, and it's like they're terrible. I hate them. Well, throw them away now.
Like proper sandals, fine, but like flip flops, why? they're an accident waiting to happen.
Just a bad idea.
Flip, flip, flip. They do make that noise, like flip, 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 flip. So they correctly got that bit.
I mean, they do flip and flop, but not on my feet.
Not on my feet. I think generally I've just have hot feet, not like hot feet, like but just hot feet, and they like.
It's good in the winter.
Yeah, I don't really get that. Well, I used to when I was a kid. Like my extremities used to be cold all the time, but like never in a way that I had to cover them. Particularly, I never felt like they were cold until someone else pointed it out. It's like, you got really cold feet, and I'm like, all right. Whereas now it's like, I think they're just actually warm for some reason. So I don't have cold feet anymore, but it means I don't feel like I have cold feet. They're always permanently hot. It's odd. I guess I have good circulation.
Good circulation. That's good. Yeah, I was definitely getting cold feet before these. I think these slippers have helped. I even tried getting some, but they're shit. But like slippers that you can like microwave, and because they basically have built-in heat packs, right? But that didn't work. They're not very nice. It's a nice idea. For some reason, like actually applying heat to cold feet doesn't really work, because what you need is improved circulation, right? Or them not to be cold in the first place, to have gotten cold in the first place.
I guess, and there's nothing really. I don't think there's much worse than like heating up your hands and feet too quickly.
Yeah,
and you get that sort of itchy,
cold and yet itchy, sweaty. Yeah.
Oh, that is probably one of the worst things.
Yeah. So
I hate it so much.
Yeah. So
because it's not like you can do about it once you're in that state either.
No.
Like, what do we do now? Blech. Extremity advice brought to you by the Saladcast.
Extreme ends of your limbs.
It's a podcast about video games.
Yeah. What's going on in video games?
Is
there any news?
There's a fair amount. E3's still carrying on, apparently. So people are still doing their shows. There's a lot of shows going on.
It's really spread out this year, isn't it? I guess they've kind of used the fact that there wasn't a Big Bang thing to kind of merge everything towards the console launches to keep the hype train going.
I guess, yeah, to sort of eke it out a bit. Like, but it's not just Sony and Microsoft doing their things. It's like, you know, all the like Nintendo are doing their little things. Ubisoft are still carrying on doing events mysteriously.
One thing though,
everyone's at it.
Talk about hype train. Sorry, before we get into games, have you seen the Dune trailer?
Yes, I have.
Oh my god, the hype must flow.
He controls the hype. Controls Dune.
I've been excited for this for a while, haven't I? Hopefully I've talked about it, but like, I'm even more excited now. I think it's going to be great.
I mean, I'm not the hugest Dune fan per se. Like, I appreciate its its world, but I don't know if there's ever been something that's connected with me in Dune, if you know what I mean. Like the way its stories have been told and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
I am, however, a Denis Villeneuve fan,
Yeah, he's amazing.
and this looks real good.
It's the perfect combination, the perfect director, you know, like basically unlimited budget, like amazing cast, and like, I mean, it's an absolute stone cold sci-fi classic that's like precedes, like, you know, influences a lot of other sort of fictional worlds and universes. So it's a bit like sitting there in 1999 where there's no Lord of the Rings film. You know, a lot of people know about Lord of the Rings and know it's great, but like, you know, it's quite weird to imagine being in this state where there's Star Wars exists and stuff, but there's no Lord of the Rings films, and then suddenly there are, and you're like, whoa! I think that's what's going to happen with Dune.
Yeah,
it's basically
like
is the sci-fi Lord of the Rings.
Imagine if Star Wars was written in like the early 1900s or something, and was and was this obscure book no one had read for a while, and then the films come out, and it's like, oh,
it's weird because, you know, obviously Star Wars is like a silly space opera. I mean, it's not silly, but you know, I mean, it's quite light compared to Dune or even Lord of the Rings. But like, obviously written in like 1976 or something. It's got a bunch of Dune references in it because I guess, hasn't it? Like they keep talking about spice mines of Kessel and
I guess, yeah.
Do they talk about sandworms? They have the crate dragon thing, right? Yeah.
Well, I suppose there is that whatever that multi-mouthed spiky hole in the floor is.
Yeah, I suppose that might be related. The Sarlacc. But that doesn't move, does it? But what else? I'm sure there's some other, like, there's definitely a few Dune references in the original Star Wars. Anyway, excited for that. Were there any other trailers?
Do you reckon it'll have the Walk Without Rhythm? It won't attract the worms.
I mean, yeah, kind of has to. Not necessarily the line, but yeah.
And then Christopher Walken turns up and does a dance.
That was a classic. Maybe he'll cameo in it. That'd be great. He's still going, isn't he? Has he retired?
He's still. Well, I don't know. He's still alive. That's what
yeah. Yeah. Dune.
I've kind of. I went for a phase of being quite filmy. I'm like when I first got my Cineworld card and stuff like that. I'd be like, right, I'm gonna watch everything. I'm gonna pay attention, listen to the Kermode and Mayo podcast.
Somewhat film buffy, not quite my brother level, but you know,
no, definitely
into
not.
it.
Yeah, that's fallen by. I kind of don't care now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. This is why I'm excited for Dune. It's like the one thing that I can point to and go, this is going to be great.
Well, and Bill and Ted. I'd quite like to watch
Bill
and Ted. Because Bill and Ted.
Yeah. I want to get into more classic movies because that's what, you know, my brother's always recommending stuff. I need to watch some more Kurosawa. I watched The Seven Samurai again the other day and it's so good, but I need to watch like Rashomon and
I think I've only sort of watched it when it's been, it might have been on when we went to see Barlow in London one time, and
right.
Like it was just in the background while we were dicking around doing other things, and it's like, I've never watched Kurosawa properly. I don't think.
Have you ever seen like the remake, like Magnificent Seven from the 60s? The Hollywood.
No.
That's good too. Like, it's not nearly as good as Seven Samurai, but it's got a great score and some really good. It's like, who's in it? Like Robert Redford, I think. Oh no. Is he in it? No. I'm thinking of that's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Who's in? It's got Steve McQueen anyway. And Yul Brynner. Yeah. Anyway, I recommend the Magnificent Seven too. But probably if you have a choice, watch Seven Samurai. Although it's a lot longer and it's in black and white, it's still pretty badass. And then they remade the Magnificent Seven, which looks terrible, right? With like Chris Pratt and stuff.
I was about to say, I thought there was a more recent one.
Yeah. Why do a remake of a remake? Anyway, never mind. I'm not going to watch that one. It's like watching
because brand recognition, it beats everything.
Yeah,
apparently.
It's true. Yeah.
I mean, we're hyped for Dune because we know Dune.
I guess. But that really is a good story that deserves a... I don't know. Everyone pretty much agrees that David Lynch Dune, although it has some good points, is kind of doesn't really work as a film.
It's so bad. I cannot
Yeah.
watch that. It's so
It's
bad. I hate
it's almost unwatchable. Yeah. So like that definitely deserves another go. Whereas Seven Samurai has been done well twice. Or yeah. Anyway, never mind. Although I think Star Wars is partially a heavily inspired by The Hidden Fortress, isn't it? Which is another Kurosawa film. Because it literally has R2D2 and C3PO, only they're like Japanese peasants.
it. Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Everything references everything else. Everyone is influenced by everything.
Because there's that famously when Luke comes back and his aunt and uncle have been killed by the stormtroopers or whatever. That shot is like shot for shot with The Searchers, which is the classic western with John Wayne.
I'll talk about classic films. I got around to watching Princess Mononoke the other day.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, it's good.
It's a good one.
Oh, it's good.
It's quite violent.
Yeah, and it's some of Miyazaki's early. Some of those early Ghibli films are.
I thought that was. Say, I watched it again recently, for the second time, and I thought it was. I assumed it was earlier than it actually is. It's actually like 97 or something. It's not an early one. Yeah,
it feels early.
It does.
There's something about its look that feels quite old school. And I kind of dug that about it. It was neat. Wasn't it like one of the first one of the Ghibli films to get a decent USization, I guess.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. And of course, there's those references to it in Breath of the Wild, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Like because the forest spirit or whatever is like half the forest spirit from Princess Mononoke and half Iwata, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Koroks are kind of like the
that's
weird
true.
little dudes.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously all based on Japanese folklore, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. I don't quite. It's one of those films where I think I would have got more out of it knowing a bit more about, say folklore and old Japanese mythology and things like that. And there would have been some more. I think it would have been a better flow for me as a Westerner if I knew that. But even so, there's still stuff in there. And I think that's true of a lot of Ghibli, actually. You just watch it, or maybe a lot of Japanese films. You're just like, okay, I'm not quite sure I get the significance of this. But I can see that. I can see it's important, but I don't understand why.
Like even in Totoro, which is much more of a children's film, it's all like tied to these folklore.
Yeah, because Totoro in a weird way is like, I didn't get on with Totoro as well as I thought I would, honestly, because it's
really?
It's not so much of a single meandering story, is it? It's just a sequence of events. If you see what I mean, it's kind of separated from a plot in some ways.
Yeah, it's very atmosphere based,
which is fine. They're like I can get on with it, but it wasn't quite as.
It's not as clear as like Spirited Away or something. Yeah.
Even then, Spirited Away has its odd moments where it's like, okay, now what are we doing? Now why are we?
Now we're
this?
taking a weird train out through to some random house in the middle of nowhere.
And why is the bad guy now a good? As sometimes happens in Ghibli films, where there's some sudden character changes, and it's like, okay. Usually involving the old lady, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
Or is that just Howls? I can't remember. But yeah, anyway,
No, it's the old lady in Spirited Away as well. It turns not good, but like relatively benign by the end.
Yeah, benign. That's the word. Yeah, still enjoyed that a lot. It was good.
Movies. Sorry, I just wanted to talk about the Dune hype, but let's get to game hype, shall we?
Hype.
I don't know if there's any game hype to quite much Dune hype, but we'll see. People seem super hyped about those graphics cards, even though I don't know what they're going to be playing on them. Like they're 650 quid or something, aren't they? Those 380. It's like who?
But they are powerful, in the sense that they outstrip the console specs because of course.
Oh yeah, completely, yeah.
But 600 quid's a lot. But then that's not that dissimilar from what the last round came out.
No. But what are you going to be playing on that? I guess you want to play Flight Simulator in 4K at 120 FPS or something. I don't know.
I mean, even then, like even if you just want to run 4K, running 4K games is still
It's
an
hard,
ask,
yeah.
right?
But you actually, with this thing, you actually can, right?
Yeah.
And it's fine for the first time, pretty much. Not for the first time, but like you can run 4K 60 reasonably with this thing, right? In most titles.
And more importantly, it's the second evolution of RTX and that capability. Which, we talked about this before, but watch those demos. Watch those light sourcing demos and things like that they've been showing. Like, because that's RTX's true power. Is not, even if you're not using it for reflections and things like that, but using it for like accurate shadowing and proper light modeling. It's like that's its true goodness.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting how, because graphics have looked like really good, in a lot of games for a while, and it's like I don't know, Battlefront or something, but it's like, what's it going to be like for people that realize that was all based on basically tricks, like screen space stuff, and you show it side by side, basically RTX on, and be like, oh, that's what it looks like in the real world. Yeah.
Because there are definitely some tricks these days that are now starting to really irritate me. Like, for some reason, screen space reflection mapping I find super obvious, like where the flaws happen, and it's like, okay, why is that bit of reflection not? Oh, right, of course it's doing screen space, and there's something in the way now. Or temporal
anti-aliasing. Yeah.
Oh boy, I'll talk about it later, but
because everyone jumped straight on that, didn't they? Because
it does look good.
Yeah.
Like for most of the time. Temporal anti-aliasing is absolutely fine, and I think the Frostbite engine has one of the best implementations of that. I think it's super smooth, almost too smooth. If you know what I mean, like it's smooth to the point where I feel like it softens the image a bit in Frostbite.
Sure.
But some implementations are just bad. Like I've been playing Tell Me Why, as I mentioned last week. And when I pan certain objects around in the camera, they leave a horrible trail for a few frames, and those are temporal anti-aliasing.
Yeah,
in a weird way, it's creating different aliasing.
Yeah, artifacting.
Yeah, and it's just like that I find super distracting at times.
I guess if you just raw power it up to 4K, you don't need so much anti-aliasing. You don't need it to be very aggressive.
No, I mean the most effective anti-aliasing has always been to super sample, which hasn't really been the focus for anyone just yet.
No.
Like, no one's really doing it. We haven't got to the. I mean, I don't think we're that far from that sort of thing, because like honestly, when you're using an 8K screen, who's going to see that? It's like, okay, if our hardware gets good enough to start outputting resolutions at 8K.
You could just
like an 8K screen is probably for most people's viewing is probably a bit much.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to gain from an 8K screen versus a full screen particularly.
Not
in your living room, not on your TV, or that sort of an appropriate distance and an appropriate size. You're not going to see the difference.
I mean, maybe at your desk with text and stuff in the same way that, like, because the pixel density of a phone, it would still be higher than like a big, wouldn't it? 8K desk monitor.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I guess you're so far away from it. Like, if you had a display that had the same density as your phone, and it was like a big screen, would you even notice? I don't know. Whatever.
But, I mean, it is a solution, but the obvious solution is to always get to the point where resolution is better than your eyes. But that doesn't remove aliasing. This is the sort of fallacy with that, because you'll notice the shimmer. Whether it's subtle or not, or if, say you threw one bright pixel into a sea of dark lines, it's like you'd see that. Like that shimmer would be there.
Yeah.
If that's one bit of like speculative lighting, for instance, hitting an object at a certain angle as the camera pans around, and for some reason in that engine that only affects a single pixel, that's going to throw you. And you need some sort of smoothing technique to make that less obvious.
Yeah.
And it's even at high resolutions these days. And maybe that will go away as you get higher and higher, but I don't think it's worth it. Like, just super sample a bit, 150% ish, something like that, and that gets rid of quite a lot of trouble. 200% super sampling is quite nice as well. I think that was an option in Guild Wars, wasn't it? Guild Wars 2 had a super sample option that ran the game at 200% in the background and looked
probably
really...
one of the first times that was really an option, just like default in the menu.
And it looks really nice. But yeah, it's super expensive.
Yeah.
Like, and I think we talked about it last week, but DLSS is a weird beast as well on that front because it goes the opposite way.
Right, yeah.
They undersample, they'll subsample the image, and then use AI to techniques
blow it back up,
to blow it back up and reduce aliasing that way, which is fascinating. But seems like the opposite. It seems like the backwards approach.
It's all weird. Anyway,
yeah.
Hardware hype. We need hype for actual games. What's going on? Is Cyberpunk coming?
If we're talking the hardware hype as well, AMD also announced some card stuff, but I haven't looked into that.
I saw that Nvidia have bought ARM off SoftBank, right? Do you see that?
Wow, okay. No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it's quite big. You'd think Apple would buy ARM. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I assumed they were going to, but I guess ARM, that would destroy the industry.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing Apple Silicon anyway, so they must have.
Yeah, maybe it's not in their best interests. Right, games. Nintendo will open with ahead of everything, sort of chronological again. I'm going to try and treat this, but throwing stuff in where it's appropriate. Nintendo, they did a partner presentation, but I missed that, and that was quite recent. But didn't pick anything out of that. But before all that, they put a random trailer out for a new Zelda game. But not the Zelda game you want, necessarily.
Maybe.
Hyrule Warriors is getting a sequel. Or a prequel, I suppose.
Well,
not
really.
When was the first one set?
Because I don't think Hyrule Warriors was set in any specific time, and that's kind of the whole point.
Right, okay. But this one is very specifically set in the time. It's set in the Breath of the Wild timeline during that the first Calamity War, I guess, or whatever. The ancient fight that put Link
during the Calamity
in the first place. Yeah, is it just called the Calamity? Okay,
I guess 100 years ago. So that voice line can now be more relevant than it already was, I suppose.
I mean, it makes sense, right? They set up with that game that there was this massive fight, and what better way to demonstrate a massive fight than with a Dynasty Warriors? So, okay.
I guess, although they could have made Breath of the Wild 2 take place in that time period and made it a prequel like that. That would have been fine.
It wouldn't have been like empty like the world is in Breath of the Wild, though. Would it would have had to have been filled with stuff everywhere, like all the time.
Does it though? Because
is there a Hyrule Town or whatever?
I imagine that we're probably going to be seeing. If you think about how Dynasty Warriors works, there's probably going to be at least one map that is the town with all its individual squares and whatnot, which is just because that's just how Dynasty Warriors functions in how the map functions as part of the game. And actually, it will probably make less sense if you go out into the wild, where it's just there's no obstacles to restrict your movement. They'll probably have to come up with some enemy bases that will make sense for that style of gameplay. The zone control kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it sort of makes sense, but I don't know. It's not. Luckily, everyone was panicking for a moment that this was Breath of the Wild 2, but it's not.
Right, no. I mean, we already had a trailer for that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were, well, I mean, I guess we're not super interested in Dynasty Warriors games, but...
well, I'm annoyed that, this one might be kind of important to play if you want more of the Breath of the Wild story.
If you want the lore. But then the last Dynasty Warriors games didn't exactly, even for fans of the series, it was a bit of a huge letdown.
Well, the last actual Dynasty Warriors ones, yes, but supposedly Hyrule Warriors was pretty okay. And
I think that was before the last Dynasty, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was before the last, definitely the last one at least. But the whole point of this is that it's got Nintendo oversight. Is that's why it's a kind of more bigger deal, I guess, because Nintendo have oversight on the whole story and the graphics and everything, which is why it looks exactly like Breath of the Wild.
It seems like when they've done these crossover Warriors games that things have gone all right, because like Dragon Quest Heroes is the same, right? It's also a Muso, but is like that one I seem to remember was pretty well regarded as well. So it's like crossover Muso games seem all right.
I think the trouble with it is that like the normal crossover Muso games are, it's just an aesthetic. It's just like, here's a bunch of random things taken from the aesthetic of this other game, but shoved into the Hyrule, the Warriors
Right,
engine.
I see. Like a skin pack, more than anything else.
Which is what Hyrule Warriors was like. Like, there was no lore continuity. It was like, oh, you've got Toon Link, and you've got Medley, and you've got Fee, and you've got like Gorons, and they're all just characters that you pick and you just fight.
And Linkle.
Yeah, and Linkle also.
Linkle.
So, like, I don't know if how is it going to play when they're actually restricted to like the actual story, when they actually have to conform to a universe and not just throw random shit in.
Yeah, I guess you want Nintendo to take a firmer hand of it, and also, if that means they take a stronger hand on it, like what do they change from the normal formula? What do Nintendo mix up? But like, you'd have thought that had happened last time.
Yeah, I'm hoping like the mix-up is that it's like an unmix-up. So like they rein it in a bit and make it a bit more sane in some ways.
There seem to be a lot of goblin dudes flying about though.
Well, I mean that is the Warriors aspect of it, but it's kind of acceptable for like, you know, we've already made up this ridiculous explanation of why there can be a shit ton of monsters, and there is that one memory in Breath of the Wild where it's like after a fight and there's a whole shit ton of enemies laying around, and you're like, you never fight that many enemies in this game. It's like, apparently it's true. You do fight that many enemies in the past, so maybe it all makes sense now.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Xbox had a reveal event. What's that?
Reveal.
A reveal, you say? A reveal for what? We've already know that the Series X is a thing. No. The Series S was finally unveiled as a real thing. And apparently it was unveiled months ago in the background of Phil Spencer's in-house shots.
Right. Because it's a white box, so it was on a shelf.
It was a white box sat on the shelf, yep, and it was there the whole time. So the Series S was revealed as being, it's quite an interesting spec sheet in some ways, because it's not a huge downgrade from the X. Aside from perhaps its actual physical size, it's tiny. It's quite a diddy thing. Most important thing is like there's a downgrade in that some of the GPU, which the big bullet point is no 4K. It will be capped out at 1440p, which I actually think is capped out. Yeah, so it can't do more than, it won't be able to output full 4K.
Right.
It will be outputting. Well, it might be outputting 4K signal, but its internal resolution will cap out at 1440.
Fine.
Which I actually think is smart, because there's still a great number of people that aren't going to have 4K TVs.
Even if they do, there's probably a great number of people who have 4K TVs because that's what they got from Currys or whatever, and then they don't even notice the difference.
Well, yeah, there's that, and they might be like bought into the whole like, oh, PS4 Pro outputs things at 4K, and it's like most of the time, no,
yeah.
Like, so if that's the it's hard to say. It's like if that's the inaccurate market you're going for, or the people that don't care, or what do we call them? The ignorant.
Well, I don't know.
That sounds harsh, but you know what I mean. It's kind of the same thing.
I think it seems totally sensible.
Yeah. I think it's a decent idea, and it's like by the fact that they're reducing the GPU and they're not changing the CPU, means that in theory that they are 100% only impacting visuals. The games should be identical.
It's quite clever. It's clever.
Now there is one detail that worries people on this front though, is that the RAM count is not only less. Again, they say that they've reduced the RAM because it's like, oh hey, we don't have to be dealing with quite so much
textures or something.
Well, yeah, something like that. They've reduced it in line, so it's like the performance can maintain the same. But the interesting bullet point there is like the S actually ends up with less RAM than the Xbox One X. as a result of that.
Yeah. Okay.
And some that's got some people slightly worried. It was like, okay, that actually might be the bullet point that hamstrings developers a little bit, because it's
the
like
memory budget. Yeah.
Yeah, the memory budget is a bit lower than what X has. Not that they weren't hamstrung already, because they have to support X Bone.
I mean, you can kind of see why, because the
line,
X is like a premium console, and this is, I know, new generation, but we're talking about the budget one, basically.
Yeah. So Microsoft are claiming what with their new what do they call it, the Velocity architecture or something like that. They've got a fancy name for their new architecture that supposedly allows it, and a new streaming tech that's kind of interesting as well that they showed off a little bit of. Where you can have large size textures, and they've got built-in systems to make it so you only need to load certain bits of textures for what's visible on screen at that moment in time. Right. You're not like you load the whole texture and apply it to an object. It knows what is visible on screen, and so only loads in the bits of the texture that are visible, and at what distance from the camera they are, so it can load lower detail versions of the same texture file. A bit like mip mapping, but done for you, I guess, without having to have separate batches of stuff for mip mapping. It's like a priority queue, I guess, and stuff like that. Anyway, they showed some of that off, and it's like how that means they can, because they're streaming all of that constantly, that the RAM difference isn't so much of a big deal, because you won't need to keep stuff in RAM, I think was the argument they were trying to make.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. We'll see how that pans out, but yeah, interesting nonetheless. Possibly the biggest downgrade is the hard drive itself, which is only going to be 512 gigs as opposed to a full terabyte.
Right.
Which again,
but you can expand it, right?
Yeah, I mean that's part of Microsoft's
but the thing's
strategy
like
here.
Fully digital, right? So you're going to be constantly deleting games, basically, if you get this thing.
Yes, that's the final detail. Is right. That fully digital, no discs. Everything will have to come off Xbox Store. Well, I suppose it's not the final bullet point, because hell, this is a competitive price point. It's $300.
Yeah.
Or 250 quid, which is low.
Real
it's
low.
Like that's cheaper than the current One X, I think.
I guess the idea is you get that, and you get a Game Pass subscription, and you're kind of set, right?
Yeah.
If you're like a normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hugely that's a massively aggressive position.
Yeah.
To be in, and I think it's going to work for a lot of people. Like, it feels like a really good, if you can convince them on the Game Pass idea, and the fact that that's a subscription, which I really don't think is hard. I think it's a hell of a deal.
I mean, people are used to Netflix and shit, so
exactly, yeah. This seems like a fantastic option for those people. It really does. I think
it's Sky for games, basically. You get the box, you get the subscription, you just go.
It really is an interesting idea.
They just have to hope that the third party are enough, because they haven't quite got the first party stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So this is the thing. The game lineup is where Xbox and we'll come to this later on and stuff like that, where Microsoft is a little lacking. And let's be honest, not all of the big name games are going to land on Game Pass. Everything Microsoft makes will, and everything Microsoft Studios is involved with will. But that's not necessarily the big hitters right now. Although, EA Access is supposedly being added to Game Pass at no additional cost at some point. Well, what version of EA Access, I don't know what that is. It was probably the base tier, which gives you access to some of their older stuff. But hey, that's coming to Game Pass, and it's like, all right, this gets a bit better. Your move, Ubisoft. What are you adding to the pie? Yeah, I think that was promising. At some point, I don't know when, but at some point we also found out what the price of the Series X is as well.
Right.
Around the same time, I guess. And that's going to be £450.
Yeah.
So it's a whole £200 difference between these two models. And you're getting your terabyte, you're getting your RAM, you're getting your 4K, you're getting your drive, your 4K Blu-ray drive.
Yeah.
For that 200 squids.
You're getting your weird form factor that you have to put in a weird chimney spot, unlike the
S. Both. Let's be honest, both of them are weird form factors this time.
Yeah,
both the Xbox
Series
and
S
PS5
is
the S
okay.
is the S is normal. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
I think-
admittedly, the PS5 is just big. Like, it would be fine if it was a bit smaller, I think.
PS5 is long and flat, and it's
Yeah.
like, and you have to buy a stand if you want to lay it horizontally, which I imagine most people would want to.
That's pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Do you really? Is that really the case?
Yeah, I think that was announced like that came out when they first revealed the design.
Who's got
It's
fucking
just
space to put it vertically? I don't know. That's weird.
I know.
Okay.
It's real stupid. It's real dumb. That PS5 design, I appreciate it for how weird it is, but
Yeah.
the more I look at it, the less I like it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'll have to see it in person.
Yeah, maybe.
I wonder what they'll look like when they're old. You know, when they've got dust on them and stuff.
I don't think that PS5 is going to age well.
Well,
Like
we'll
in terms
see.
of how consoles look, some of them, you know, I think it will age quite badly. I don't know why.
Even though the original Xbox was like just a block PC, it's still
that's
kind of cool. I kind of like it for some reason.
I don't know. I think I put that into the category of consoles that are aging badly.
Yeah.
But at least it was wild and a bit out there.
Yeah,
and had a big X on it. Again, in the stone way, I appreciate it for that. I appreciate they did that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as aged as well as the GameCube, right?
Ah, no, that's an absolute stone cold classic. Yeah.
Like how the European SNES has aged way better than the American SNES.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, that SNES is awesome.
Right. Another Microsoft news. ODST will be added to Master Chief Collection September 22nd.
Is that still going to be like a? Well, I guess they all are, but I was going to say, is it still going to be like a separate DLC? But that's just how Master Chief Collection works on PC.
If you've got Game Pass, you get it.
I think I'll get it because I have Master Chief Collection on Steam, right?
Oh right, yeah. I don't know how the Steam one works.
I think
that's very good.
Yeah, because I've got Halo 3. It just downloaded it. Well, I didn't download. I had to ask it, but yeah.
Yeah, because Master Chief Collection on Xbox though, ODST was released later as a DLC pack. So I don't know. I honestly don't know what the situation is if you bought it on PC. I would hope you'd just get it.
They've kind of ruined the name of Master Chief Collection, but never mind. It's just Halo Collection now.
Yeah, they probably should have just called it that. Or changed the name. They can change the name. They can do that.
You still have Johnson in ODST, so there's still a tiny, tiny connection to the regular Halo.
Yeah. I guess Master Chief is in reach right at the end. He's in the ship somewhere.
Yeah, he's an icicle in that game.
He's an icicle.
They decided not to break him out for some reason, even though it was like the most important cargo. They would show. Yeah, anyway.
I don't even know why he was in cryo sleep at all when the rest of the crew weren't.
Yeah,
read a book. It's probably going to tell you.
I'm sure that Brian David Gilbert has the answer, having read every single Halo book.
Recovering from previous injuries or something. I don't know. Never read those. Right. Ubisoft. They had an event. The second Ubisoft Forward. I'll pick up on a few points. There was some garbage, but I think this was more interesting than their first Ubisoft event they did. So Gods and Monsters, we got a decent look at that. It's now called Immortals Phoenix Rising, with Phoenix spelled with an F. Is that like a?
Never heard of that.
Like Phoenix? Like is that?
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure that's a thing. Yeah, we kind of suspected they were going to go for the Breath of the Wild thing, but boy, did they! It is so Breath of the Wild. It's almost painful.
Let's rip off the best game in the last 10 years.
I mean, it doesn't look like they're doing a bad job, admittedly. I think perhaps they've got too much UI going on. But other than that, I think it might be good. It looks all right.
Cool. I mean,
even if it is a total rip, you know. They say they're leaning into the comedic aspect a bit more, which could be a bit hit and miss, right?
Yeah.
It's like they either land that or they don't. It's a risky strategy, but that's what they're going for. They want to make things funny, a bit slapstick, a bit. And it seems like there was perhaps more voice work in this than there was in Zelda.
Yeah, sure. I mean, most things have more voice work than Zelda, even though, yeah.
December 3rd, that comes out as well. So not that long. will probably be, it's a launch window next gen title. Something to think about. Probably more appealing to us though. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is getting a full remake.
Sweet. I mean, that was leaked, wasn't it, or something?
I think it was, yeah. But it's a ground-up remake, but then they're not doing like the Final Fantasy VII style remake, where it's like, oh, this is a reimagining. It's like, no, it's pretty close to the original game. Like the cutscenes are the same, and they're following the same story and the same general structure of the game, but it's been built from the ground up to play like a modern game. I didn't really get any sense for like whether or not the whole narrator thing was still there. Like, no, that didn't happen, and all that.
You mean one voice line? It's not much to add.
Well, yeah, but or whether it was narrated.
That was cool.
Because you got narration,
but it was like such a tiny
right?
thing.
Yeah,
I thought it was narrated like as you were playing at spots as well. Like it wasn't just that line.
I don't know if I can't remember whether it was like narrating back in time or current narration, like his wife was doing. I think maybe,
Okay.
but that might have been like between levels. I don't think it was like it might have been part of a cutscene, not really during gameplay.
as long as it's got that guy with that stupid accent shouting at you to solve that puzzle with the room that rotates or whatever.
Oh, I don't know. The only cast member they mentioned that was returning is Yuri Lowenthal, who's more famous recently for playing Spider-Man.
Right.
Or Peter Parker Spider-Man. But he was the original Prince of Persia voice actor.
Right.
And he's back doing that.
Okay.
But he's going to sound so old now.
I suppose it's been a while, yeah, but
I saw they're making a new series of Animaniacs with the original cast.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
But it'll be done in a terrible modern cartoon style, right? Which is generally bad.
Yeah, it's not going to be good, is it? Anyway.
Like that. Oh god, don't get me started on like when I looked up what the new Raccoons TV show looks like. It's not out yet, but like, boy, they've ruined it. The art doesn't look good. So there's a new Bombay studio put together to build that, and it's January 21st, so also pretty soon, but not a 2020 game. Skip over most of the rest of the stuff. 2 more points from here to talk about. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game, is returning. That was not.
Assuming Ubisoft doesn't somehow get shut down in the next 6 months, which could possibly happen, but not really.
I mean, well, yeah. If you think that all this the sexual allegations and bad harassment stuff that's being thrown around at Ubisoft at the moment is actually going to come to a closure, which I doubt for a studio that size or a publishing wing of that size.
It's going to get some people kicked out like it already has, and then that'll be it.
But yeah, it's coming back on Switch and on consoles. No word of Steam, unfortunately, but the Uplay logo was there. So does that mean I can get it through the Uplay launcher on PC? Here's hoping. Bring it to Steam already. Come on. Yeah, I mean that's fantastic news, right? Because it means you can play it on modern machines.
Yeah.
Not that it needs a modern machine or anything.
No, but if it came out on Xbox with their current architecture, right? Like you could get it on Xbox and then it would be backwards compatible forever, right? Because assuming the architecture doesn't change significantly again, like it did back in the 360 days, but like they couldn't make the 360 game back compat because it couldn't be sold, and now they're not doing more 360 back compat work. It's like that game's never going to exist again. But this new version will probably carry with you for a lot longer, which is the bit I like. But it would last a lot longer if they just put it out on PC. But yeah, super happy that's back. It's a great game. And they revealed a brand new title called Riders Republic, which looks like an extreme sports game of some description. It's hard to get a feel for exactly what this thing is, because there was like downhill BMX, there was boarding, there was wingsuiting. One guy with that, yeah, kinda, but with like more, like it wasn't just on snowy things. There was like road races, and some of the shots they showed of people clambering down the hill just had dudes running as well. So they're running in the game somehow as well.
I'm sure it's not too much like tech difference to make the engine that ran Steam just run a few different modes of transport.
I mean, he's probably got to do quite a lot of different physics for different styles of play. But yeah, I don't know what team's behind it, but I'd be highly surprised if it isn't the Steam team. February 25th as well. So also not a huge distance away. Yeah, that was the interesting stuff from Ubisoft. They need to stop showing Watch Dogs because they don't show anything new. The last few times they've shown that, it's just the same message packaged with different footage. It's like, shut up. You're de-hyping it now. Right, okay, let's talk about the PS5 showcase.
PlayStation.
This was a show. This was a proper show. This was like...
I missed this completely, so...
Well, this was Sony basically. Like I think in this and the PlayStation 5 reveal event, Sony have finally shown their hand and be like, yeah, we can do this stuff still. Like after spending the entire year of being a bit weird and putting out details about PlayStation 5 in like articles and Wired interviews and leaks on their or random pictures on their Twitter. It's like the last two events they finally turned around and been like, yeah, this is how you do this new console hype.
Yeah.
Totally changing my opinion on like, oh hey, Microsoft were doing the better job. Oh no, they're not.
Oh no, wait.
they're very much not. Sony's got
they've got a march.
Yeah. Which is feels a bit familiar, right? We didn't exactly get this right with the Bone launch. So
yeah. I mean, Xbox are not going to screw things up as badly as the Bone launch. They've learned that lesson.
And I still don't think they have. Like, but their marketing definitely hasn't been as strong this time around either.
Sony's screw up was the PS3 launch, which like wasn't as bad as the Bone launch, but was like holy shit expensive and all of that stuff. And
crazy money. Like even now, if you look back at that and you think about it, it's like okay, the Series X is coming out at $450, and spoiler alert, so is the PlayStation 5 if you want a disc drive. But holy hell, $599.
It was insane, and the cell processors and stuff didn't really work for people for games all that well and stuff like this, and really hard to work. And that whole era, they really learned from that with the PS4, and they're just carrying it. They're really just kind of building on it now. Whereas Xbox have been like kind of lost after that Bone launch.
Here's the thing, right? If we were to take the two consoles, because that's what you do right now. It's like, well, actually, no. Let's have this conversation after we've done PS5, and let's do the whole comparison thing in a bit. Because let's talk about some of these games that were mentioned here. They opened with a PC game. Square Enix showed off Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16. That's a 16. That's a new number.
That's a new number. Oh my gosh.
That's a new number.
It's not 15.4 or something.
No, that's a whole brand new number. But the trailer starts with a little subtitle saying "running on a PC, but emulating what PS5 would look like," which is an odd statement to make. But okay, I guess they're still developing this thing. Whatever. Yeah, Final Fantasy 16. It's they're going back to a fantasy setting, like high fantasy, I suppose, as opposed to like a tech fantasy setting.
Yeah.
Which
that's cool.
Which they haven't done for a while, really, outside of 14
what was the last
Online,
one?
I guess. I mean, you could argue 14 Online is still doing that, but sorry, Mike. I guess 12 was the last one to do it.
Yeah.
So 13 was like that. 15 was this weird world with a car. 12, I guess, because 12 was in Ivalice. And people, I was watching the Easy Allies reactions to this trailer because, why wouldn't I? And they thought it looked like Ivalice at first, but there's no proof that that's the case. I don't know. I thought it looked real nice. I thought their story setting was nice. It seems like people can turn into like the summons this time. That's the thing. It's like
that's kind of cool.
You're not just summoning them. You're summoning. You are sort of becoming them when you need to.
Morphing into them.
So that's like the power within, I suppose, of this game. They've got an army whose things seem to be tattoos on people's faces that look a bit like Zell from Final Fantasy VIII.
Right.
It's got a lot.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of FF hallmarks going on, which is good. There was a brief bit of combat footage in there as well, which I actually think might have been the bit that turned me off a bit, because I was looking at. We don't know how this plays at all. It's just a trailer. The combat was probably running at real time. We don't know if they're bringing in some of the stuff they've been messing with in Final Fantasy VII Remake, that sort of real-time turn-based hybrid.
People seem to like that.
Yeah. From the outside looking in, it looked a lot like the combat from Final Fantasy 15, which I think was interesting but pretty flawed. It never felt like it hit its potential. That combat system.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit worried about that going in. But hey, we're getting a Final Fantasy game. Because of course we are, and it's been a while when you think about it. And it's no release date, obviously. Nothing else said, just that it exists. Big news. What else did we get? Another little look at Miles Morales, which, looked like a Spider-Man game. It's like... Well, it looked like that last Spider-Man game again, which is no bad thing. I didn't really get the whole sort of like tech wow of it sort of thing. It's just like, hell, it looked like a nice sequence they were showing off there, with some obvious nods to the previous Spider-Man films, and I think a nod to Homecoming. I think actually, looks good.
I could go for some more Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, I'll come back to that in a moment as well. There's something else that needs to be tied back. How do you feel about Harry Potter right now?
Right now? Well...
Yeah, right this second.
Right this moment? Well, I mean, I've been following the J.K. Rowling going down a crazy transphobic nightmare hole situation. So... Yep. But I guess that's separate. You have to do that whole thing of separating art from the creators, even though Harry Potter is a children's book series and not exactly high art. But yeah, it's still a good thing in many ways.
Sure, and I would agree with that statement. Harry Potter itself and what's been created is good, but it gets trickier when you start to think about the money, right? With these sort of things, it's like where's the money flowing? And
I mean, they've been making pretty bad movies lately with those Fantastic Beasts ones. So I mean,
I've only seen the first one of those, and I didn't mind it. It didn't quite capture the Harry Potter thing for me, but it was all right. And I haven't seen the follow-up.
I heard it was a bit of a train wreck.
No, really?
Yeah, Crimes of Grindelwald or whatever.
Something like that.
There's an entertaining Jenny Nicholson breakdown of it on YouTube. Recommend checking it out if you haven't seen the film.
Okie dokie.
It was funny.
So here comes a Harry Potter game. Take what you feel about it with a pinch of salt. Apparently the developers haven't been involved with J.K. Rowling at all. She has no involvement in this project, but the license is hers, so money.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
That said, this game looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It's called Hogwarts Legacy.
I mean, it's the game everyone always said they wanted, right? The RPG where you're like running around Hogwarts, right?
But set in like 1900s, or was it 1800s? Like Hogwarts, like
late 1800s, Victoria or something like. It's bloody genius. Great idea. Because Hogwarts presumably isn't that much different from those times because they have magic, so it's not like technology really comes into it. Really,
no, it's fairly similar in terms of that stuff. I mean, it would probably be identical if they just don't involve the real world at all, which they might not.
But even if they do, I think that's a cool setting. I think that's a great idea.
And I think they've 100% nailed the visual. Some of the effects look really nice.
Yeah.
In that trailer, like how things were moving around, and there's one particular shot that seemed like a minor thing, but I really quite liked it, where like the ground sort of shimmers and pulls you through a hole in the wall as it's either closing, or I don't know. It just looked really nice. I'm not sure if the character animation was as nice, but the world looked really good. Yeah, I don't know. We don't really know what this game is or how it plays particularly, but it's probably like a third-person adventure, a bit like those old games, but done right.
This is cool. I'm excited. It seems like it's been in development for a while as well. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There was that leak probably well over a year ago of them like doing early reaction, people's reactions to early trailers of this. And
it's one of those games that's like it's just the obvious, right, to make this, right? And why hasn't anyone done it before? It's like the big 3D Breath of the Wild Pokemon that has never happened, right? And it's like, why
right,
haven't they done it? And this is the other one. It's like the big Hogwarts RPG. Like, why haven't they done it? It's like, oh, they're doing it.
It's like there aren't many licensed properties that get made into games anymore, and that's probably a good thing. But this always felt like the obvious one, right? Even back in the day when the originals came out and they were kind of mediocre, it's just like, well, you could do something with this. Someone could do something with this. I mean, they never really have outside of Lego Harry Potter, which is probably the best incarnation.
I mean, I still want the game where you're a bounty hunter in Star Wars and you're going around different planets and stuff. But what they did instead was make a TV show.
Right.
But anyway, never mind. One day.
Got that. Yeah, so there's that. Looks good. We've got to look at a set piece from Cod Blops Cow, and it looked very cod-like. I mean, I don't know what more I can say to that. Call of Duty be Call of Dutying.
Good cod, bad cod.
I mean, it seemed quite. It was nice that they brought out Raven to talk about this, because although it's a Treyarch game, and like they're the head studio, it's like Raven basically would do behind-the-scenes work on pretty much every Call of Duty game, and they don't get a lot of love for it because they're never the lead. So it was nice that they brought out a spokesperson from Raven and say, like, hey, yeah, we're doing. This is what the campaign looks out.
They should just make. I mean, those Doom games do well. They should just make Hexen or Heretic.
Yeah,
that would be funny. Anyway. That is the same Raven, right?
I think so. Yeah.
From back in the day? Yeah.
Yeah. We got another look at Resident Evil 8, or Village, as it seems to be using as its primary title.
Village.
Yeah, just more of that. Don't care particularly myself. Deathloop. We didn't really learn anything particularly new about this.
It didn't look good. I don't know.
Yeah, right. You're in the not good category. So I've quite liked how Deathloop has been shaping up. But I think this trailer perhaps added a couple of worries to my list, and it's like, okay, am I replaying the same thing over? Am I literally replaying the same bit over and over again to find the optimum route through the game? Is that what this is about?
I mean, if it's Super Meat Boy, then that's fine. But I don't know about
Yeah, because they set it up to be like, you've got like 24 hours to kill every single one of the targets, but what you do to one target will affect where it goes, and then change the opportunities later on how you do that. And it's like, yes, so there seems like there's a lot of how many options do you really have? How varied can it be? And ultimately, are you going to be banging your head against a possible outcome that can't possibly work? And is there like one good route? It's like it's still a huge amount of question marks over how this game actually pans out. Are you guided through these possibilities, and you just play them out like in a sort of sequency sort of way? A lot of question marks about it. But one thing is now for certain, and maybe I missed it before, but it was made very clear here: it's a PlayStation console exclusive, no Xbox version. Possibly timed. You never know. When they say that, it could be a timed exclusive, but PC as well. So there's a route for you there. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. Interesting to note, only because it's coming out at launch on PlayStation 5, but it's also coming out at launch on Xbox as well. Hush, hush. Excuse me. Oddworld was there again. Looked like Oddworld. Five Nights at Freddy's is getting a random 3D game. Demon Souls was shown off a bit more. The remake by Bluepoint.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a launch title, right? It seems like from what I've seen, people are like, I've seen people on my Twitter feed who are like, can't believe I'm getting a brand new next generation console to play a game, a 9-year-old game. But I am.
Yeah, two generations ago.
Yeah.
I mean, visually it looks really nice. Look, it's a well-made remake, which is what Bluepoint do.
Yeah, for sure.
This one will 100% be a PlayStation exclusive, obviously.
Yeah.
And Sony even went out of their way to say there's no PC version of this time. Like, even though Dark Souls and stuff came out elsewhere, it's like, no, Sony have said, no, we're not doing a PC release of this.
Right.
Right, then we were kind of out of the main games thrust, because they then talked about PS Plus Collection, which I sort of initially thought was, oh, this is going to be their Game Pass equivalent. But no, it's a free benefit for PlayStation Plus subscribers, existing PlayStation Plus subscribers, where they're making a small library of basically Sony's big hitters from PS4. But not it's a subset. It's not every one of their things. Like there's some interesting more recent inclusions, like Days Gone, for instance, is in there, which is only interesting because it's one of the most recent games on that list. But they're also throwing in like Uncharted 4, and then some third party stuff as well is joining the mix. You've got Monster Hunter World, which seems like a fairly high profile title to be in there. Decent inclusion. And then Battlefield 1 is also there for some reason. But okay, I guess EA needed a mention.
Sure.
That felt like a weak point. But yeah, notice you're not really getting Horizon. You're not getting God of War. You're not getting some of those big names hitting this. You're not getting Last of Us Part 2, but you are getting Part 1 remake, a real remaster, things like that. So, it's an aging collection, but you are getting it completely for free, and it seems permanent as an addition to PS Plus. Absolutely no word on whether that's an evolving library, or if this is just a goodwill thing, where it's just like, here's the collection, or whether there'll be a season 2 of this later. Absolutely nothing said, but hey, have something for free. All right then. Can't complain too much. I will fold in. This is the point where, at this point in the conversation, because it's sort of related, Jim Ryan, CEO of Sony, has come out and said, "Hey, we looked into doing a Game Pass-like option, and it does not make sense for Sony right now. So they will not be doing a Game Pass-like service, even though they're already pretty close to one with PlayStation Now. They kind of have that, which is a subscription service.
I wonder if maybe they are, and they just don't want to talk about it yet.
Yeah, that's probably right. But or they don't want to expand on what PlayStation Now is, which is kind of what. Yeah, I mean, it's a streaming service to let you stream PS3 games because they never made those compatible on PS4.
Yeah.
It's one of its main functions. But it also does just straight up let you download certain PS4 games that may now be in the PlayStation Plus collection, like a chunk of them. It never felt like, I don't think PlayStation Now was a huge library. Like, so it's like it's a, and I don't know how closely they work with third parties and things like that to get content on there. No one ever seems to talk about it, so I don't really know. It's not Game Pass, but they've sort of already got one. So maybe I wouldn't hold out hope for them expanding that, by the sounds of it. But maybe you're right. Maybe they won't actually. Don't want to talk about it right now. But then surely now's the time, right? You want people to buy your console.
Yeah, but maybe they're just not ready.
Yeah, I guess. Finally, the price was revealed. With that flyby graphic of PS5 we've seen before, and then what looked like some hastily pasted on top text. Just pops in at the end. So UK £450 for the version with a drive, same as Series X. Logical.
Mhm.
£350 for the digital version, so the version without the drive. So you're getting a whole £100 saving if you can give up the whole discs and sharing discs between friends, all that stuff. Getting discs from retailers that might be cheaper than PlayStation Store, which reads as they are always cheaper than PlayStation Store.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's quite a chunk, isn't it? I suppose, but I mean,
but it
in
is
the
still
long run,
cheap. £100 is cheap for a 4K Blu-ray player. So if you care about that from that perspective,
yeah, exactly.
then £100 more to get the 4K Blu-ray functionality is a deal. But it's the bigger picture on whether or not the cost of games is going to be a problem for you on digital, which I honestly think it is. I don't think PlayStation Store is very competitive on a lot of its titles, and prices don't go down very fast. The only people that tend to do decent discounts are Sony first-party titles. So it's not expensive to get hold of God of War now, for instance, on PlayStation Store. It's not expensive to get hold of the first Horizon game. So it's that side of it is an okay prospect. I think it's okay if you're a patient gamer and you want those Sony exclusives, then PlayStation Store is fine. But for everything else, games are pricey, and which is compounded by the fact that prices are set to get more expensive this generation. PlayStation confirmed that some launchers will now break that $60 mark and be $70 releases. What that means in terms of UK price is not 100% clear, but expect your games to get more expensive, guys, especially the blockbusters. And on PlayStation Store, you're not going to at least have a choice of trying to see if retailers actually adhere to that. That's going to be what you pay. So there was a lot of talk when the 350 price point came out to be like, oh damn, they've won this generation before it's even begun. £350, £100 cheaper than an Xbox. It's like, whoa, hang on, roll that back a second. If you're thinking financially, there's some hoops to jump through there.
Yeah, definitely.
It's probably going to cost you more in the long run, which is that's how I feel about it. Anyway, I still want a disc drive.
I wouldn't be surprised if people buy the disc version, the one with the disc drive. Yeah. Although, yeah, it does give you pause, though, isn't it? It's like, because if it was like £50, I think everyone would get the disc drive, wouldn't they?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
The release date in the UK will be November 19th, 1 week after Xbox comes out. So again, pretty closely matched. They must have known each other's plans. Is all I'm thinking.
Probably. Do you think there's no? It's just. I was wondering if there's industrial espionage. But who knows?
I don't think they really have to do espionage. They just look at what the factories are currently doing and be like, oh, they're ramping up chip production in this certain factory that Microsoft always uses all the time.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, the people who know how this stuff works will be able to figure it out, right? So yeah, that is. Oh, aside from a little tease that there's another God of War game in production, which duh, and that will be coming out next year, seems pretty quick. That's it. That was PlayStation's their last, pretty much their last reveal, I reckon, before launch. At this point, I mean, it's a good slew of games, but let's be honest, a lot of those aren't exclusives. Like Resident Evil, not exclusive. Call of Duty, obviously not exclusive. Hogwarts, not exclusive. It's like both consoles I think have a pretty weak launch lineup. I mean, it depends how much you care about Demon Souls, I suppose, or that little Spider-Man experience. Oh, which, by the way, if you want the special editions version of Spider-Man, which is the one that includes the enhanced version of the original Spider-Man game, that's going to be at that $70 mark. That is one of those games that fits in that category. Apparently, Destruction All-Stars of all games is going to be at that price point as well. It's like, okay. I should also point out that they're not alone on this. Some Xbox games are said to be at that price point as well. But I feel like that's hugely mitigated by Game Pass. Because the exclusive titles will cost you your Game Pass subscription. So yeah, how are we feeling, lads? When do these two sit with you?
Zeg, do you care at all at this stage?
Not really. So if I was theoretically, I mean, there's already been rumours about a beefed up Switch coming, which is worrying.
Right. Yeah.
And then if I'm still in the market to eventually get a new PC at some point, and that would be where I'd go. And then once I'm on Windows 10, I can just get Game Pass, and that will pretty much cover most of anything I could possibly want.
Yeah, I think that's the best move for you, at least. You're not much of a consolist these days, but yeah, new PC plus Game Pass, you'll be set.
What's your plans for a new PC then, Zach?
God, I don't know. The prices are still so fucked up. It's still just a matter of hanging out and waiting to see what changes.
Fucked up for the graphics cards.
Well, for that, for a start, but then like a lot of other stuff as well. But mainly, pandemic stuff happening. But like the graphics card was the bit because you just started recovering from the crypto mining hump, and then it's like, oh, now how about a pandemic and a whole bunch of new cards?
Right. Yeah.
Which will probably trigger another crypto hump.
Yeah.
If we're honest.
Yeah, I mean is that happening? Like, are they being bought up?
I don't know if you can buy them yet. Can you?
The new cards.
Get away from the mic.
I think you actually can buy those new cards now.
Well, I don't think you can any longer. I think you could, but I think they sold out immediately.
Speaking of which, did you see what happened to the PS5 pre-orders? They all went wrong.
Yeah, classic.
There was no plan of attack, really. Like Sony said they were going up one day. The retailer said, nah, dog, we're doing it early, and did it whenever they fancied. So anyone kind of wanting to pull the trigger kind of may have got screwed over a bit by bad messaging and the retailers doing their own thing. Something went badly wrong anyway. Also, if you want a PlayStation 5 and you're now hearing this, good luck. You're probably not going to get one in 2020.
In 2020? Oh, man. Is it really that bad? Like, surely they want to sell as many as possible for Christmas, but I guess maybe...
Yeah, but everyone always wants to sell as many as possible for Christmas, and then they always fail.
And the release dates are later than usual in the year. Like, they're in November this time round, which doesn't give them a lot of time to get more stock on shelves, so it seems pretty unlikely that they're gonna. That's not to say they won't. There might be another shipment. There might be other shipments coming. We don't know. But the amount that they're ordering right now, that they went very fast. Very fast indeed. Which Microsoft happily sort of laid into them about and being like, yeah, we know exactly when ours is happening. Let's see. And that's Tuesday. This coming Tuesday, September 22nd. They've given a specific time for the US. I don't think they've said a specific time for anywhere else, but it equates at 6 p.m., I think, UK. Yeah. Get ready. They will go.
So what are your plans, Rob?
I'm getting an X. Like, because I can't get a PlayStation right now, and I don't think I will. But also, like, I'm acutely aware that I spend most of my, thanks to Game Pass, and I know I'm a big evangelist of it, and I can't stop on about it, but it is brilliant. And I spend most of my time on PC and Xbox these days, and my PlayStation gets the odd look in for big titles like Last of Us. And I don't play a whole lot else on PlayStation outside of that. So also the Bone is the oldest console under my TV right now, and I think it shows some that there are games that clearly aren't designed or optimized for Xbone's power level. And it would be really nice to not have those problems on games that, should be running fairly easily.
Yeah, I think you'll be pretty sorted with an X.
An X will do me fine, and I can wait for PlayStation because I can catch up on the big games. I'm quite patient with releases for games these days.
Yeah,
I don't, and I think we all are. We don't have to play them day one anymore.
Not anymore. Not unless it's Zelda.
Might make us a bad podcast, but it's
no, we're not a bad podcast. We're just a late podcast. But yeah, Red Dead I will play on day one. Zelda I'll play on day one, but otherwise,
yeah, there's not many games that get me that so hyped now that I have to just sink in. There's the odd one here and there. And I'm thinking that might have been like Smash Bros and Tetris, and those were like a while back now. But
yeah, exactly.
Tetris Effect. Yeah, I think I'll get hyped for something, and then it'll come out, and they'll be like, yeah, "I'm alright. I'm still playing this other stuff." But yeah, I think an X will be good for me, just because I can still do what I'm currently doing, but on better hardware. So yeah, I'm gonna try that at least. Right, what else we got? 2 local remaining points. EA is killing off the Origin name, so Origin on PC will no longer be called Origin. For now, it's calling it the EA desktop app, which kind of sucks.
Oh, that's bad. What was wrong with did it fail as a brand? Because I thought that was a reasonable brand.
I mean, I guess
since Origin was a fine name, it's just as good a name as Steam. Although Steam is a bit more of a pun, isn't it, on Valve? But anyway,
sure. I think Origin's a bit of a Origin's a weird callback in itself, right? Because Origin was a studio that I think EA then eventually owned at one point.
I don't think that was why it was called that. I think that was just a coincidence.
Yeah, Origin used to make the Wing Commander games. But yeah, that's which is weird. But I don't. Yeah, Origin's a bit of an outlier, I guess, in terms of names, right? It doesn't really fit. Like, why is it called that? I suppose is the question. It's fine as a name, but it's just why.
So why is anything called anything? I mean, Uplay as a name sucks real bad.
Yes.
So I mean, are we just heading for like EA Play?
That would be better than Uplay.
But they already have EA Play. That's what they call the E3 event.
Okay.
Not that they couldn't reuse that name now, apparently, because who knows if EA is going to exist next year at all?
Couldn't they just call it EA Store or something like the Epic Game Store is just called that? And
that's hella boring as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about names of shop fronts, they all suck, or are just like real random.
I don't know, GOG's alright.
Yeah, except what does that mean? It means good old games, which is like, I mean, fine as a kind of like, as a nice kind of branding thing, except for the part where they don't just sell old games.
Yeah, but then you can say good old games, not necessarily old, but OL. OL apostrophe.
But that wasn't what that brand was made for. The whole point of that when they came up with that was it was going to be selling old games, and then now they're just like, no, just ignore the actual name, just call it GOG. Don't think about it.
I still like it. You got Humble Store as well.
I mean, that's fine, but that's like just like the Humble Bundle was just like, yeah, alliteration. Okay, we'll give you that, I guess.
It's not alliteration, is it?
Well,
vague rhyming-ish.
Do you call it? Is it a form of alliteration when it's like rhyming the second half of the word, or is it literally just rhyming? Is there a special word for that?
I thought alliteration was just the first letter.
Yeah, but is it like?
I don't think that's true. I think it is broader than that.
Okay.
I think.
Fair enough. I'll remain corrected for now, but that was my take, right? Listen to me down the pub, right? I'll tell you a little thing or two about alliteration.
Maybe they'll just end up calling it. Maybe they'll just call the app, just name it EA, because I mean, who cares?
I think
really?
I bet that's what it is actually called, but because they have to refer to it as something, that's why they're calling it EA Desktop App, probably in their messaging.
Which will then eventually just become the EA Store, I'm sure.
EA Store, like, that makes way more sense to me. Just call it that. It's dull, but it works. I suppose this is the same thing that like Blizzard tried, right? Or Activision tried to put on Blizzard when they were like, oh, it's no longer called Battle.net. We're calling it Blizzard.
And then it became the Blizzard launcher.
Yeah, and at one point they did go back to Battle.net, but I think now it might just be called Blizzard. I don't know. I got a bit lost to that. I gave up caring.
Yes.
And finally, my little dig at Apple for the episode. Apple announced Fitness Plus for their, I guess that you can use it on your phone and but you need an Apple Watch. And I look at it and I go, this is Xbox Fitness. You've just done Xbox Fitness like 7 years later.
Embrace and extend.
Yep. This is Apple being
and extinguish,
Apple,
right? Well, that was the
Yeah.
Microsoft mantra, wasn't it? Embrace and extend, or which basically meant steal.
Yeah, except then they started innovating and like doing it first, and then it not taking off, and then Apple
and then someone
doing
else
it a
comes
couple
in and
years
steals
later.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
But Xbox Fitness, like, is it a good idea? Yeah,
I mean, it worked for me. I used it for a while.
Exactly. Yes.
It was, all hung off the Kinect, which is basically a motion sensing device, right? And now, I guess you could vaguely do that with an Apple Watch, and Ring Fit has sort of proven that you could do it with just the remotes, but yeah, they got closer with this first, I suppose, by doing like, it's not just Kinect, it's like it's Xbox, it's fitness videos that professionals have made. We're going to track you alongside them, and it's like, yeah, and that's exactly what Apple Fitness is. Funny. Anyway. Excuse me, that's news.
That's the news. And it's time for what you've been playing. I don't think there's much point like mixing up the order every time, because like Rob's usually been talking quite a lot in the news, so I think it's Zach's turn to talk.
I think that's fair as well, because I need to.
I could tell by the coughing.
Out. Yep, I'm
so
talking too much.
I'm not going to mix things up.
But I'm not talking enough, so I'm going to cough as well.
What have you been playing, Zach? Coffee way through telling us.
Well, I think the first thing we have to cover is something that I've not been playing and possibly won't play again, I guess, which is Rocket League.
Oh, why? What happened?
Wait, won't play again? What? I was about to go make myself a drink, but I'm coming back. What's going on?
Well, you need a drink so you can spit it out.
Yes. Do a spit take over this dramatic news. Well, so the way I have to describe this is there's 2 points, really. And the first point accounts for maybe 10% of the reason. But it's like the one that's slightly more news rather than just me. Which is that when they did their free-to-play update, you now have to link your Steam account to an Epic account in order to play.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Oh, I mean, I thought that was implied by the fact they were making everything like when the library of your library of stuff.
Yes, but the problem with this is that it's not. The first problem with it is that in most of their update posts about what's coming in the new in the free to play update, they often use the word "can." Like, you can link your Epic account to consolidate your different libraries.
I see what you mean, right?
But you can't. It's required.
Yeah.
And then the second problem with it is that it's literally not required. Like Satisfactory, they were on Epic first, and you play on Steam, and you can cross-play between them. But it uses the Epic Online Services backend, which is a separate thing that Epic have made specifically for this purpose. It's not an Epic account.
Wait, so interesting. So Satisfactory doesn't care whether you're playing on any service, but Satisfactory is using an Epic service to run
to cross-play, basically. It's using that to navigate the 2 separate systems between Steam and Epic.
But they're not really sharing data, right? So if I did stuff on Epic and had a save file, and then I loaded up the game on Steam, it wouldn't know anything about me on Steam.
Well, in Satisfactory's case, it's 2 separate purchases. It's not like Rocket League where you can combine the inventories or whatever.
Right. So that's the difference there. The service there is just a server, as opposed to knowledge about you as a person.
But again, that could solve the problem of Rocket League. If you didn't want to create an Epic account, they could have used that service to still allow you to play the game, essentially.
I guess, but Epic owns Psyonix.
Yes.
They want your details.
Yes, and so there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, this is just a shady business tactic to ramp up the number of Epic accounts because it's forcing everyone who plays Rocket League to make an Epic account whether they want to or not, and on all the different consoles and everything."
I mean, 100% yes, of course it is, but is anyone really surprised by that?
Well, they did say the thing is, they did say when they first got bought by Epic, they were like, this is not going to impact how Steam users play the game. You'll still be able to play the game even if we're not selling on Steam. Nothing will change. And now it's like, well, now you're accepting a whole different terms of service and whatnot.
I guess, yeah. Nothing will, nothing, quotation marks, will change. I guess the game still plays the same and the rules around it and all that stuff will be the same.
So yeah,
your account information, your personal information, that's not the same.
People are certainly annoyed. And when I went into Satisfactory, they give you the option when you first launch Satisfactory on Steam whether you want to link it to an Epic account or use the back-end service method. And I specifically chose not to link it to an Epic account, pretty much for the same reason. It's just like I don't want my Steam account linked to an Epic account. That's it, really.
Yeah, okay. I suppose my question is how does that work? Are you literally tying your Steam account to Epic, or are you just logging into Epic? Like, you could launch an EA game that you bought on Steam, for instance, and you sign into.
Yeah, it's not like it's just like running the Epic launcher after you hit play on Steam. It is like it's actually a linked account. You can go. There's like if you go to the Epic. Website.
I mean, I think that's even more linked than what I'm talking about. It's like you can launch a game and then log in to the game, right? Doesn't Torchlight do that? Is that how Torchlight works? Where you log in to Torchlight, not to?
Yeah, maybe I forget exactly how Torchlight worked.
Or maybe I'm thinking, there's probably better examples. Elite, probably, stuff like that.
But yeah, it is like a direct link. And if you go to like the Epic webpage, you can see like if you log into your Epic account on the Epic website, you can see what other accounts are linked to it, that kind of stuff.
Right. Again, not the first time this has happened, though.
No.
Like you remember when, like back on the PS2 days, like when Half-Life came out on PlayStation 2 and they wanted you to link your Steam account to your PlayStation.
Well, that's maybe slightly different. It's not like it's linking it to a competing service exactly or anything.
Well, and Humble Bundle links to Steam and things like that.
Well, does it though? That's more like it generates keys on the back end.
There was a point in time where it did. They don't do that anymore. But there was a point in time where you could say redeem on Steam and it would literally just link your accounts together and there you go. You'd hit the buttons and it would chuck it in your Steam library, but they don't do that anymore. Maybe because people got annoyed, I don't know.
Yeah. So that's the first 10% of the reason that I might stop playing Rocket League. The rest of it, the other 90%, is they removed solo standard, which is literally the only mode I play.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
What does that mean then?
Well, solo standard it's still 3v3, so like standard Rocket League teams gameplay, but you can't be in a party, so it's 3 teams of random people.
Yeah, it's
teams of 3 random people.
So if you're a solo player, for instance, you can't. The big advantage is that you can't go up against a coordinated team,
right? So you get to play, right?
Yeah, so it's more even, and like
which
you don't.
I thought was a genius idea, right?
It's like that was the whole point of that mode, right? For people who don't have a team all the time, there's this other mode where you can play it without having a team, and it will be fair. But yeah, they took it out apparently because the population was too low, which is, I mean, that is a reason to get rid of stuff.
Yeah, but
also you're taking it out at an exact moment where your population is about to go up a bunch for a start.
Well, yeah, because of crossplay.
Well, because of free to play
for ages and free to play. That's bizarre. And also, Rocket League's always had the problem for me. Where I don't think they've had enough. They could have made. There always could have been another playlist, right? And for plenty of options. It's like, hey, where's Chaos Ranked? Where's that been all this time?
And then they did put in all the ranked modes for like the other. Well, I say put in. They converted all the other modes to ranked and got rid of the casual versions
for some reason. I mean, I guess because of population reasons again. But it's like those populations are never. Those numbers have never seemed that low.
Well, no. The thing is, like, I saw people complaining about solo standard or saying goodbye to solo standard in a sarcastic way by saying like, "Oh, it was 5-minute queues to get into a game," and it's like maybe a 2-minute queue sometimes, and that's only with a population of like 1,500 when I'm playing, and that's like 10 times less than the casual queue, and it's still like not unreasonably long.
Is that the local population as well, not like global?
They don't tell you that any longer. It just says I always assume it's total. not regional.
Interesting. Yeah,
'Cause
because it expands regions, doesn't it, as it goes?
Yeah, I don't think even if you toggle the regions in the region drop down any longer, because that used to change the numbers on the menu. Whereas, like, if you change to the US servers, you could see how many people were on the US servers. But they got rid of that a while ago, so now I assume it's just total.
I mean, are Rocket League numbers waning in general then?
Yes, but the whole point of this free-to-play update is surely there's going to be a ton of people now, right?
Yeah. I'm not doubting that. I'm just curious. It's like,
I mean, I'm sure it was. Like any game that's several years old.
Yeah.
I mean, all you can say for this update in Rocket League's case is they're not TF2 and it's bot disaster zone that they've got now.
Right, yeah.
Although it did take like a good few years of free to play in TF2 before the bots got super rampant. So maybe they did okay.
Yeah, we'll see, right?
Well, I mean, obviously the bigger problem for Rocket League is Smurfs, not bots.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people creating new accounts and just stomping the noobs.
Oh, but that's true of any bloody game.
Well, yeah, but when it's a free-to-play game,
yeah,
that makes it much worse.
I mean, I've come across Valorant players way too many times that are like on there, where they've just openly said, like, yeah, this is my secondary account. And it's like, and then they go and just walk the server, and like, because they're way better than everyone else. And it's like, why? Why is that entertaining for you?
Yeah. I mean, I was like, maybe I'll make a separate. Maybe I'll log into my Epic account and just start playing Rocket League there. I guess on free to play. Just start over, but then I'll be a Smurf for at least a while.
Yeah, I guess. But you can just be like, "Oh, I'm new to this. I seem to be pretty good."
No, but that's what Smurfs always say. It's like you can't fake Smurf. It's like, well, I mean, I guess there was
because you just use like stock equipment half the time, right? You don't use some of the fancier items.
It wouldn't matter because you wouldn't have non-stock equipment on a Smurf account.
No, true. Yeah.
I mean, there was a few times back in the early days of Rocket League where ranks were much more like you could join into different ranks much easier. Where I was just like, in order to make this game any fun at all, I'm going to not play as hard as I theoretically can. But that was amongst friends and whatnot. But like, you know, you can theoretically do that if you want, but that's just not how Smurfing works. So yeah, maybe I'm done with Rocket League. Maybe that's it.
Wow. Momentous day.
Yeah.
We'll see when the new season launches and whether or not I can drag you back in. Because that's the only reason I'm not playing Rocket League is because it's like I just want there to be more stuff. It's like I don't care about any of this personally. I think I'm okay with it. But it's.
I mean, I did also look at like.
I am disappointed they removed solo standard. I think that's a stupid idea. But the rest of it is just whatever. This is what happens.
It does seem like when I looked at the new stuff for Rocket Pass, a lot of it seems to be old stuff or like remixed old. Like they did that when they did the 5-year anniversary or whatever, and they did those like remixed versions of items. A lot of the first Rocket Pass for this new free-to-play world seems to be that again.
So has that started then? Has the season started or?
I think that's the 23rd is when the free-to-play patch actually happens, and I think that's when the pass and the season. I think the season might start one day earlier for no apparent reason.
Weird. That would kind of suck, but I suppose it's good in a way to offer people the chance to get the free-to-play or the new players to get some of the best stuff from before, but it's not quite the same stuff.
That sucks for anyone who already has it all.
Yeah, I might dissuade you from actually getting a pass this time around. I'll have to have a look.
And also, they've, for some reason, decided to call this Season 1.
Oh, wow. That's confusing.
Yeah. And everyone who has, like, Season Champion...
Is that why it's remixed stuff? Because they're literally doing it again?
Season 1 of Rocket League.
But now all the people who have, like, champion tags from different seasons are like, well, what are you going to do when we get to... What does my champion tag of Season 1 mean now? Is it going to be a different colour at least or something?
Legendary. A retro season.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems weird, but, you know, it was inevitable with the whole free-to-play situation that they were going to... And, of course, the first season is got some like Fortnite crossover elements jammed into it, as you do.
I mean, it was bound to. There's probably going to be some the other way around, right?
Probably. Well, I think. Oh no! Why I'm thinking of the weird crossover with Worms, where you get Rocket League cars in Worms.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. But yeah, so that's Rocket League. That's the situation with Rocket League.
Huh.
And also, it just doesn't work at the moment, predictably.
Wait, what? It's like they've broken the servers as well? Or...
Well, yeah, the servers got all kinds of fucked up, and supposedly they might have like introduced a bunch of extra input lag for certain people. They also removed DX9, so people are pissed about that.
They've been wanting to upgrade for ages, though, right?
Sure.
To move the engine forwards. That was the whole point,
But yeah, people are still annoyed.
I think they're getting to the point where they should have just made a Rocket League 2.
Probably, and then they could have sold it instead of go free to play.
Yeah.
Because I bet people would have bought it.
Or maybe not even sold it, just launched it as the new free-to-play game on Epic Store rather than changing all of this. Because, like, yeah, if you've got fans, changes aren't always good.
Yeah,
I
guess.
And this sounds like a whole bunch of not good changes for your existing fan base. But maybe they don't. Maybe Epic don't care.
Well, I'm sure Epic don't care.
New management don't care.
It's where how much Psyonix can put pressure against that not caringness, and apparently not very much is the answer.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, bit of a bummer.
On the plus side, that will let me make this last Xbox 360 controller last much longer. If I'm not playing Rocket League any longer.
God, I've got to repair all of mine again. Pretty much.
And so, apart from not playing that, well, I've been playing and recording a bunch more Factorio, naturally. Getting those videos still out in a reasonable time frame.
Check them out on our YouTube channel, Happy Salad.
And I've still got, I'm still on the one in, one out. I'm nearly at the end, I think, of the video series, essentially. I think maybe there's one more episode in it where I'm going to get the nukes and fire a couple of them off. I've already launched the rocket, so technically I've already finished the game. But I didn't quite manage to research the nukes before I did that, because it's a really long research. But then I want to get that done, show off the new nuclear explosion graphics, and then that might be it. Not going to get the achievement inside the video unless I do like a little extension or whatever, which will either be an extra video or just tagged on to the end of the last video, depending on how much longer it takes me to get the achievement. If I haven't already got to the point where I'm editing that last episode by the time I've got the achievement, then I can just tag it on the end. Otherwise, I'll just make a quick extra video of here's how my base turned out in the end. And then I played a bunch of other games of Factorio as well. More mods, more weird and awkward mods. The weirdest one has been, well, I went back to the mod pack that's called Space Exploration, which adds all different planets and stuff. But in the early game of that, I was fiddling around with this other mod that's it basically gives you RTS commandable vehicles, so you can just select a bunch of tanks and drive them onto the enemies and that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool, but also kind of hella janky because it reuses the enemy pathfinding AI, which is already super simple.
Right.
So you've got vehicles going wonky and driving in weird directions, and there's no way to really manage the pathfinding or formations or anything. Well, there might be some ways to manage formations, but yeah, it's weird and kind of jank.
It's kind of sub Command and Conquer level pathfinding. Yeah.
But it does have the advantage of it being in Factorio, which is it's not just straight RTS commands where you can click locations and move vehicles around. You can instead just have it all be programmatical and just have the vehicles be remotely commanded by a whole bunch of circuit conditions or whatever. So you can just be okay, this miner, you have a building that scans whether there's an ore patch in the vicinity and then tags it, and then that can automatically command the mining vehicle to drive to that location until the ore runs out, and then it'll move, and then you can have a hauler that knows when the mining vehicle is getting full, and then that can drive over and pick up all the ore. So it's what you'd expect Factorio to be in terms of a bunch of weird circuit conditions and programming built into the game.
How do you manage to find these games that are basically just programming simulators, but with like weird graphics on top?
Well, speaking of that kind of game, I briefly went back to Opus Magnum as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Although that one, I'd kind of forgotten because after I finished playing it, well, it happened after I finished playing it the first time, but they did do a little extension in the way that all of his games have had, essentially, where there's just like, here's a few extra hard puzzles at the end that are sort of after the story.
Right.
And I'd never done those, so I went back and did not all of them, but some of them. And once again, it's funny because he's basically reused the same concept again, because in Space Chem, the DLC for Space Chem had basically teleporters where like you could teleport the atoms from one location to another, and it was like two separate areas that you had to shift stuff through. He reused that idea in Infinifactory, like the first stage of the like human campaign in Infinifactory has teleporters which take individual blocks, so you have to like disassemble and reassemble stuff. And he used that again in Opus Magnum, where the teleporters are back. You shift the singular atoms through the teleporter into separated zones. It's weird
that into a bit of a pattern here.
Well, it's just weird that that idea is always like his first like post-game DLC / expansion / extra content idea that he always uses. It's like it wouldn't be as weird if it was just in the normal progress of the game. It's just that in all of these cases it's always been like the first extra bit is the teleporters.
It's like the comment thread filled with people going, oh, when he releases a new game, it's just like, can't wait for the teleporter DLC.
It's not quite as bad as Civilization adding all the features back in via their DLC, but
yeah. Can't wait for the complete pack several years down the road.
But yeah, so I went back to that and tried to relearn how to play that game. Although that game is much easier to come back to than some of the other ones. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to play Shenzhen again without reloading that entire thing.
God, yeah.
Because that is just basically a programming language. Whereas in Opus Magnum, you can make real shitty but functional machines quite easily.
Oh no, I think I'm getting Shenzhen confused with TS. TS was the one where you had to deal with a quirky.
Well,
machine,
it's basically the same thing. Shenzhen is just the slightly more fancy version of TIS. So there's that. I'm not sure I really did anything else. I mean, I played some amount of Animal Crossing, mainly because, well, I mean, obviously I still need to fix shit up in my town eternally. The goddamn plants won't stop growing. There's always that. But there was also, I was getting through the last of the seasonal, September's bugs and plants and whatnot, get them out. And then I had to play it a bit more because one of my villagers wanted to leave, and I was like, "You're one of the villagers I actually do or don't mind so much if you leave, so I can get a replacement." But then that leads to having to grind the Nook Miles tickets to randomly generate not randomly generate, but randomly spawn a villager per Nook Mile ticket. To be like, "Are you someone I want to my town? No, I'm going to bugger off then. Go fly to a different island. Are you someone I want to my town? No, okay, keep going." Then you just do that for like an hour or whatever. But because it's random and there's like 400 villagers to choose from, it's just like, are you ever going to get anyone you really want?
Do you know who you want to arrive?
Well, I know, like, I have like 3 or 4 that I'd like if I can get them. So if they happen to turn up randomly, I'll be like, okay, that one. But other than that, I don't have one personality on my island. Like, the villagers have a set of different personalities, and like one of them I haven't had for a while because the last one that I had of that type had left. So if the worst comes to the worst, I need to look for that personality rather than a specific villager that I want.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of an awkward system, and also a system which you have to complete within 24 hours, or otherwise you just get given a random villager.
No.
Which is very annoying. And I think I mentioned that before, where it's just like, why are we forced? Why are these systems It's almost where it's like you wish it was more like Happy Home Designer, where it's just like every time I give a villager a gift and then they put it in their house and it ruins their interior decor, I'm like, no. I want to make your house nice, but then like I want to give you shit as well. But then those two systems are not compatible.
No, because you ruin your own house. You've got no taste.
Yeah, you just give them. You want to give them random items, but those random items just immediately get put in their house and ruin their nice theming. So then I just don't give people items like that. I just give them like fruit and shit. But then that doesn't make them as happy, and you don't get as good stuff back. It's very annoying. I wish there was a way to reset people's houses, because you can reset their clothes and you can reset their like phrasing, like if you've changed what they say as their custom phrase at the end of their sentences that they do. You can get rid of those, but you can't like reset their house. This is what I really want. Or alternatively, just let me like say to someone, let me do a full redesign of your house, and then let me just go in there and change everything. I actually do want that, the Happy Home Designer interior decorator gameplay for my villagers. Because then you could fix people who have really bad design.
That phrasing thing, does that mean you can make them say Kupo after every line?
You certainly can.
That sounds bad.
Well, not every line, just sometimes.
Phrasing. Are we still doing phrasing?
Can you make them swear at you?
Yeah, you probably could.
Just end every phrase with "Yeah, boy."
That might actually be one of them already. That's the kind of dumb shit that is in there.
Excellent.
So yeah, that's Animal Crossing. It's still.
I can make it end so every sentence is "Where my gyroids at?"
Well, the rumours are that the gyroids are coming in sometime in September or October as part of one of the next updates.
What are the things in Elite called?
Like Thargoids? Wait.
Oh, what, the aliens? Yeah, they're Thargoids. Yeah.
Thargoids, okay. It's kind of like that, but in Animal Crossing. Like, when are they going to appear?
I mean, they are basically aliens.
Yeah.
As far as Animal Crossing lore might be concerned.
Maybe they're related, Thargoids and gyroids.
Maybe that's what the Thargoids look like inside their ships.
Yeah, maybe that's why you don't ever see them. It's like they're actually gyroids. Gyrating away. That way that gyroids do.
And their rhythmic mesmerism.
And then I guess I played some Enter the Gungeon, a few runs of that again. Still trying to get that goddamn Paradox run. It's never going to happen, I don't think. Well, not unless I actually grind for it. If I actually played Enter the Gungeon consistently instead of randomly, so I actually got better, then maybe I'd have a chance.
Get good.
And then briefly, games I haven't been playing again, version 1 of Stormworks happened, which isn't really significant, because it's pretty much just a regular patch, and they're going to continue patching it post 1. But it's out now, so add that to the Game of the Year list, I guess.
Oh dear.
But yeah, I haven't been into Stormworks version 1 now yet. It's supposedly there's some more rebalancing, some more fancy systems. Like it has a proper weather simulator now. Like instead of the weather just changing randomly, it actually has like you could look at a weather map and see like, oh, the rain's blowing in from the east and it's going to get here in like 3 hours or whatever. Which is kind of cool and kind of makes sense for a whole game about, sea rescue missions. But also is probably going to be quite annoying when it's just like, my boat can't handle this weather.
Right.
As happens in the early game. And then they've already basically announced or talked about some of the things that are going to be in the next patch, post 1.0, which is they're going to introduce modular engines. Because previously you had like 3 different sizes of engine and you just slap them in and they have ports that you attach to like air and exhaust and power output or whatever. But now they're making modular engines where like each individual part of the engine is a block and then you can stack them together however you want, essentially. So you can make custom sized engines, which might actually be good, because a lot of the time I felt like the small engine was too small and then the next step up was too big because it was like so heavy. Because you went from the small engine, which is like a sort of I'd call it like a generator engine, that kind of scale. It's just like a little thing that you'd pull a ripcord on and start it up with some petrol, that kind of engine. That's what the small engine looks like. And then the next tier up from that or maybe was called, I don't know if they changed the name, it used to be the aircraft engine. So it was like a 12-cylinder kind of thing. And as a size jump from the small to that, it was like quite significant and like a lot heavier. So being able to custom build something sort of in between those two might be quite nice. And might actually make it more possible to manage the whole engine system of Stormworks. Maybe aspiration will actually matter more now. Because previously, as long as it was connected to air somewhere, it just worked. Which was a bit of a cheese method. Although it did make submarines kind of interesting, because then you could actually like make a sealed-in room that was the air room.
Right.
But of course, it didn't make sense for buoyancy, because like the sealed-in air room would be the buoyancy, but it could pull infinite air, quote unquote, from that volume to run the engine, as long as it was just a sealed compartment.
Oh, that's weird.
It didn't really consider air a fluid, like how you can fill a volume with water in that game.
With water, right.
Or fuel.
Because that would be the obvious thing, would be to use that similar mechanic, right?
Well, but you'd have to make it slightly different to be like air pressure rather than volumetric filling, I guess. Unless you did just do it via the exact same system, and it'd be kind of weird to have liquid air, essentially. But yeah, that may get played at some point shortly, I suspect, because other people want to play it too. And we haven't played that in quite a while in multiplayer, because the last time we did play it, it was all kind of fucked up in multiplayer. It was real jank. Shit was not like synced correctly, and you randomly got physics to death and flew through the world and all that kind of stuff. All the fun glitches of unsynced multiplayer games.
Yippee!
And that's pretty much it. I've just looked at my Steam while I was trying to remember what games I played, and apparently there's a No Man's Sky update coming.
Another one.
Yep.
Okay.
Origins. Which is a funny name for your 12th patch.
Well, EA got rid of that name, so...
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is just what that. They're just like, oh, this trademark has opened up. Yoink!
It's one of... Well, Ubisoft are quite keen on Origins as well, right? Assassin's Creed,
Yeah.
Rayman.
That's true. Cool. It's time for what Robe has been playing.
Robe. That classic 4-letter shortening of my name. I had to use all 4 letters in Smash Bros. Don't you know?
Why
Back
did they
in the
have
day.
4 letters and not? It's usually 3, isn't it? They just went with 4 for Smash.
With one more.
Yeah.
Turn it up to 11.
It's because
Or 4.
3 always sucks. 3 is definitely too few, unless your name is Zach, conveniently.
You didn't go
Or
with
Rob.
K or something. But you were like, no, it's Robe. That's the next letter in my name of Robert.
You can wear me. It's yeah. All right. This week I have been mostly playing 3 games.
Raspberry Pop Tarts. Yeah.
Raspberry Pop Tarts, corduroy jeans. I've been mostly playing 3 games, which I shall talk about after asking Zach if his lack of Rocket League means he'll end up playing something else, like Counter-Strike or Valorant.
Who knows? I mean, the trouble is that like Rocket League's the slot that Rocket League filled after TF2 was like the adrenaline game, I guess you could call it. Like,
is it finally Overwatch time, or is it never going to happen?
Well, it depends if Overwatch 2 ever comes out, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that would help. But yeah, that slot of like slightly more Twitch gaming has possibly opened up.
Whoop.
Ooh,
Well,
Valorant says hello.
Well, after all my nagging to get you to install Valorant, a bit of me now wonders if it would even install on Win 7 because of that. Well, partly because of that Riot Guard or whatever it's called.
Right, yeah, it has to run a background process.
Yeah, and I wonder if that even installs on
Why
Win 7.
did you upgrade to Windows 10 when it was free? It's not free anymore.
Because I didn't want to run Windows 10 on this ancient ass PC, and I still don't.
Okay, fair.
Windows 10 is actually pretty, unlike Vista or whatever, or
Yeah.
previous upgrades, it's like 10 actually runs pretty well on old hardware.
10 is fine.
Yeah.
They removed all the bullshit mostly, almost entirely, to be honest.
I mean, it's still a bit of an odd OS, honestly.
Yeah.
But like, it's a bit all over the place, but it works well enough.
And also probably I would bet that I probably would struggle to upgrade to Windows 10 because I bet it would need too much disk space on the C drive.
I
the
mean,
C partition.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have had quite a lot of free space to download it in the first place before it installed.
Yeah.
But
because as usual, my C drive partition for Windows is pretty much exactly as large as Windows is. Even though I didn't intend it like that, and I was at the time when I first made this PC and installed Windows 7 and whatnot, I was like, I'm going to make this C partition like 15 gigs bigger than people say it needs to be. But that's not true. Turns out it's exactly the right size.
I know, I'm kind of anti-partitioning these days. It's like, just use your drive, it's fine.
It helps for organisation, but not really the actual reason that you'd want partitions in the old days.
Have we got to the point now where, like, when you build a desktop, like, you just go for SSDs, and then put long-term stuff on your NAS or something? Like, do you need hard disks in a PC anymore?
I mean, games are still big.
Yeah.
And they need to be local.
Yeah, but you want the game on the SSD. Like now, presumably you can get a terabyte SSD for like.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Much.
Sorry, the difference between SSDs and hard drives.
Yeah,
right?
I'm saying like the actual mechanical hard drives are they pretty much, because they've been gone from laptops for years. But I'm just wondering, if you're building a PC, do you bother with mechanical hard drives? Probably not, right?
I think for the increase in cost for an SSD of reasonable size is negligible now.
Yeah.
Compared to I mean, I say negligible. It's like, there is an increase in cost for storage size ratio, but then most people's needs for more storage size hasn't actually gone up all that dramatically.
No, because everything's online.
So like, I reckon, yeah, okay, a terabyte SSD, a lot of that is going to be taken up by Windows or your apps if you're a reasonably heavy user. A terabyte isn't necessarly going to be enough, but for a lot of people, it is.
But if you're a gamer, like Zach's new PC, if you put 2 terabyte SSD in there, that'll do you. Right?
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, now everyone's getting on board with M2s, aren't they?
Yeah, and in fairness, I put SSDs in the M2 category.
Well, yeah, they basically are.
But with a different interface, and it's like that's not something I've really been able to try with this build particularly. I do have an M2 port, but they confuse me slightly.
What is M2?
It's a different port that sits directly on your motherboard rather than
as opposed to SATA. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So and the bandwidth is a lot higher.
Oh, okay.
And those have been around for a while. Like most laptops shipping these days will have an M2 drive as opposed to a SSD.
Right. So that'll get your stuff into the game, into memory faster.
Exactly. It just improves your loading times primarily. It's not, and PCs still, because they can't guarantee how fast things are going to stream from disk necessarily all the time, they do rely more on RAM than consoles do.
Yeah.
So, your drive speed isn't, I wouldn't say massively bottlenecking most modern games. Unless you're trying to run Red Dead in 4K, in which case you're probably going to get bottlenecked a little bit. But
some people are.
But that was designed for consoles, which are still regular hard disks until the next ones.
Yeah, it's true.
So, I would go a SATA SSD at a minimum from here on, would be my advice.
It's just because, like, my PC, which is old, has like is from that period where it has a small SSD, which has Windows and some stuff on, and then a larger mechanical hard disk for everything else.
Yeah, which until recently was how I was running.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would have an SSD for Windows and maybe some of the bigger titles.
But I think that time is over.
Yeah. They're cheap enough that I would just move to SSD.
Yeah.
I still feel like I'd probably want a regular large hard disk, if only for the future of taking it out. It's just much easier to transfer a file, and you don't have to worry quite so much about it dying and all that problem.
I mean, that's less of a problem now. SSDs are quite long life, but
yeah. I mean, they might even be better, because they're no moving parts, right?
Exactly.
Well, you'd hope that was theoretically the whole one of the points, but You look at
If
this
you want
PC
an-
that I've got, and then I'm still using the original hard disk, and it's been like 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
If you do want a secondary drive for pure volume, then yeah, get a hard drive, obviously.
Yeah.
Because you can get way more bang for your buck if all you need is volume.
Although I think if I was going to have like second, I mean the NAS is obviously an option, but like just some kind of backup drive.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
you could
you're
get
like
an
me,
external SATA, right? Just box,
Yeah.
which you just plug in.
Because I
Even
do
one of
have
those-
an mini external disk that I use for backing up important shit, but like it's not real backups. It's just me copying files rather than actual automated backups.
I mean, like even one of those like Western Digital My Books. There's a huge, I don't really agree with like external caddies like that necessarily, but hey, they do a job. If you want a lot of volume, you can get one of those with a large amount of space for not a great deal of money, and they will do that job. If you're super anal like me and you really want redundancy in that backup, yeah, get a NAS drive. The 2-drive variants of that aren't expensive these days. You don't need an expensive one of those, but get a good name at least. Something like Synology. You specialize in that stuff. Shove 2 drives in it, forget about it. Which is what I've done. I've got a 4-drive NAS bay, and I've still only got 2 drives in it, and I'm hoping I let it be.
I'm hoping if I get a flat or something someday, I'll get a NAS that's powerful enough to run like Plex, and then I don't have to have a computer running to do
that'd be nice. Mine's a little underpowered for some of that stuff.
Yeah,
I mean it can run Plex, but not for transcode. Like it's better as a music server.
Yeah, it's like you're basically buying another computer at that point. Yeah, but anyway.
But then I think transcoding is kind of a thing that's sort of not necessary unless you're a huge pirater anyway anymore. It's like like streaming services have got good.
That's true. That's true. It's true. Right. What you been playing, Rob?
Tell us one of those free games that we met.
The 3 games. The tease, right? The tease. Right. Let's start with the new game out of those 3, the one that I haven't talked about before. That would be Hotshot Racing. So this is Sumo Digital and Lucky Mountain Games throwback to the arcade. They really want that nostalgia bonus of they are gunning for the early 90s 3D aesthetic that Sega somewhat popularized in Virtua Racing. And games like that where we can do 3D now, but we can't quite do textures. So there we go. They made a intentionally lower polygon game with 0 texture work. Well, that's not strictly true, but practically no texture work in it. That had me interested right from the start. It's like I played it at EGX a couple of years ago when it was still known as Racing Apex, and while I thought the handling needed work, it's like I liked its heart. And I think that's still true now.
Okay.
Honestly, I think I like its heart more than I do what has come out as the end product. This isn't to say it's a bad game. That's going to come. This is going to sound a bit like a Rob review, and that it's a bit overly harsh because this is it's an arcade racer. It's a subject dear to me, and I think it does a lot of things well, but I think it's just well, if you know what I mean. It's just it does things well, but not great, not as good as I was hoping for, especially out of a studio like Sumo, who have a pretty good racing engine. Let's be honest, they've been using it for a while. It's the same engine they used in the Sonic Racing games, and I'm quite a big fan of the 2 Sonic All Star Racing games. I haven't played Team Sonic Racing, but hey, this isn't. Oh god, it's going. My throat's going already. This isn't Sumo's first rodeo in this field. It may be Lucky Mountain Games' first rodeo. I don't know. So let me try and explain how it plays, because I wouldn't say it's like any one thing. I'd say it's got the virtual racing aesthetic, but is more like a Daytona in terms of what style cars they use. But then the handling weirdly reminds me more of Burnout than anything else. Like, so you have tight control up until you tap the brake, and then you go into a sort of drifty mode,
Right.
where you're adjusting your angle into the turn by like pulling out of the turn.
But not as crazy as Ridge Racer or something.
No, not as weirdly railed as Ridge Racer is.
Yeah.
It's more of a natural handling, I guess, of the cars. And at first, like, it feels far too easy. Let's be honest. Like in normal mode, the speed is reduced in the game, so you're having a slightly slower experience. The AI is ridiculously simple to beat, and also you're drifting around turns with ease, and not really posing much of a challenge. You're owning boost as you drift, pressing the boost button when you've got a pit full, a bit like Ridge Racer. This all feels quite familiar. So what have I got to go on at that point? It's like, normal mode's far too easy for starters. So it's like, okay, what else am I looking for? Let's go back to that aesthetic, which I think makes a good first impression, but ends up feeling a little less characteristic than I would necessarily like as you see all the tracks and things like that. It's almost like, even though they've gone for the textureless detail and some objects are notably low poly, if you're really gunning for that aesthetic, I don't think they went far enough. Like, it's almost it's still almost too high tech. Some of each individual item has a low polygon count, but there's still quite a lot of environmental detail. Right, there's still a reasonable amount of objects about. There's still a reasonable amount of things, even if they're all modelled badly. There's quite a lot of them, and which is kind of a Sega trademark as well. But like, there's something like, I want my Ferris wheel to be like an octagon,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Things like that. There's almost too much detail still, and they go outside the scope of that by having there are some transparent effects, for instance, here and there, which the old aesthetic would never have been able to do. There's some bloom here and there, which the old stuff wouldn't have been able to do. Would have been nice if they wanted to model transparency, for instance. Like, why not use a skanky diver effect? Really go for it. Things like that. And it's like, okay, maybe they want to make this. Maybe they're a bit worried about going this route and want to add a little bit of modern appeal to it. But for me, it kind of switches off my nostalgia glasses a bit, and then ends up being, this is just an aesthetic. It's not the aesthetic. And this is kind of compounded a little bit by the fact that there's only really 4. It does that in multiple environments, multiple tracks in the same environment thing. So there's 16 tracks in total, but only across 4 environments. So a lot of the game ends up feeling pretty samey in terms of how it looks after a while. And I don't feel like you get the crazy variety of environment that you somewhat expect from an arcade racer. And I'm going to be using this as the obvious parallel because it's the best arcade racer in recent years. Fast RMX, man, that does a hell of a job, right? Even when they're reusing environments, like this is the snowy environment, of which there's probably maybe 2 tracks in that environment out of the 20 odd you get. Those 2 tracks at least feel pretty different from each other.
Sure.
Whereas a lot of Hotshot Racing's tracks kind of feel like they cut from the same cloth. Like, they all have large sweeping turns. There's almost no verticality to most tracks. They're all very flat, like in terms, even just no hills, very few hills. And it's, I think the course design needed a lot more variety and a lot more variation. It starts to blend together too much. All right, so but they're not bad. They're not bad designs. They're not as interesting as I would have liked. I just thought of the other reference, that the handling is a little bit like Outrun, Outrun 2, which is another Sumo gig. Sumo worked on Outrun 2.
Oh, did they? Oh,
yeah, with Sega.
So that was a while back. Was that a 360 game? Wasn't it? Yeah.
OG Xbox.
Oh, was it? Oh yeah.
It's close to launch, I think, of the OG Xbox. Yeah, hell of a game. Yeah, so the handling.
It's funny how Outrun has become like the name for that 80s aesthetic for some reason. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Like that's the subreddit on Reddit for like that, like I don't know, Lamborghinis and Ferraris and like.
Oh right, really?
It's called Outrun. Yeah. Anyway.
Weird, because I'm not even sure the original Outrun.
No, I know.
Was all that.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyway,
if anything, the original Outrun was more just generic Hawaii,
generic California, right? Or,
yeah, that sort of look. Weird. I wouldn't call it like the that 80s synthwavey vibe, which I suppose is what they're roping into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that ends up falling a little short of my expectations. And so then, okay, what other pillars you've got? Oh, you want some recognizable banging arcade music, right? You want something memorable. You want Daytona.
Daytona. I think that one might actually be too memorable. Like you don't remember any of the rest of the music of that game.
I don't know. I think I remember a couple of the track tunes. There's one where he's singing Sky High a lot, and it's in the back.
Oh, yeah.
Anything with lyrics.
So yeah,
GAMEOVER.
game over. Yeah, there's or even Sega Rally, right? That did it as well.
Yeah.
Game over, yeah.
Yeah, that's so dumb.
Yeah, this doesn't have that. Across the board, this is just like I'd say most of the music is forgettable to bad. I think the first 4 tracks probably have some of the best, most arcadey, what I'd want from an arcade racer style music in the game. Like a bit of cheese, a bit overdone. You know what I mean? You want it a bit overdone, and but that was what makes it memorable. Like the first track, for instance, has a bit of a donk going on, and I'm like, all right, let's do this. And but yeah, that falls away in the other 12 tracks, unfortunately, and they just become more tracks. Not even a track which has dinosaurs on the side of it can really save it. I don't know. Yeah, and then the structure is kind of exactly what you expect as well. It's like there's you've got a Grand Prix mode, you've got 4 tracks in each Grand Prix. Come first, get through the rankings, and there's 3 difficulty levels: normal, hard, and expert. What I will say though is like I found normal mode to be too much of a breeze. The game starts to come alive in hard mode. Well, I still found it really easy, but the increased speed suddenly made the turns more interesting. The sort of like the bland track design suddenly felt there was a little more challenge on some turns in some courses. And then expert mode is a very slight bump on hard speed, so you're not going much faster. But this is to me is where the game is at its best. Is like when you're playing in expert mode, the AI is putting up a challenge. And some parts of some courses are proving a bit tricky. Partly because I don't know, like I think it has the problem that some games have, where as you increase the speed, the handling in the cars doesn't necessarily scale to the speed you're traveling at. So some of the cars become twitchier. It's worth pointing out there's a lot of cars in this game. There's a bucket load of vehicles. There's like 8 different drivers you can choose from, each hilariously low polygon and look terrible, but that's great. And each one of them has 4 cars, so you got a decent selection of vehicles. Good 32 there. And each driver and car combo has slightly different characteristics. Like within each driver, there's like the 4 categories. You've got a balanced car, you've got a acceleration car, you've got a speed car, and a drifting car. So everyone has that, but that's not enough. Like even between drivers, those 4 categories behave differently, slightly. And so I think expert mode probably requires better car selection than perhaps what I'm. I need to find the car for the tracks that I'm about to come up against, which is, I think, where the difficulty is hitting me a bit because I breezed through. I kind of did the first GP in expert mode pretty easily, but now I'm actually struggling with the last 3. Suddenly, I've hit a bit of a wall, and I'm having a hard time besting them. And I think that's because I haven't found the car driver combos for those that I like at this speed and this difficulty just yet. Which is a bit of a tenet of an arcade racer. It's what I like about F-Zero, and it's part of what I like about Fast. It's some courses are better suited to some cars, and some cars are better suited to different driving styles. And it's okay, yeah, I need to try and find the one that works for me with this set of tracks. Great replay opportunity, like it. You need one of that. You need some of that. So well done there. I don't know what else there is to say about it really. It's just sort of fine. There's not a lot to it, but it's okay. I wouldn't say I'm playing on Xbone. And I can't say it runs perfectly there. There are a few bits of framiness going on. I suppose I could talk about how the actual racing itself works. The AI, it seems to encourage quite a lot of rubber bandiness to try and keep the pack together. Because there's only 8 drivers, there's only ever 8 cars on track at one time, and I think it could deal with being at least twice that to be more fun. I think that would be good. But then the AI is quite aggressive against you. It likes running into you, and with a rubber bandy pack, it's I'd imagine that could be carnage if there were more cars going on. Fortunately, collisions are very
mild.
Yeah, very mild. You being hit basically does very little to you, except for the odd occasion where it totally screws you and puts you face first into a corner, and then you have to reverse out of it, and then your race is done.
Yeah,
and it's I've had that happen to me from AI. I've never managed to make an AI do that, so maybe it's got that horrible one-sided collision stuff that I generally don't like. You can't dish out what you're dealt. And I think I'd like that to be. I don't know if I want that to be more or less impactful. I don't know whether if you've got that burnout outrun style handling, do I want it so I can just ram you off the road? Can I do takedowns? Why not? Or do I want it to be so I can't be Frenched or pit turned all the time, and I can't do that to you? That kind of stuff. I don't know what the balance is there, but I'm not sure collisions are quite where they need to be. But in the easier difficulties, all that means is the pack jostles around a bit towards the end. You don't don't boost until right at the end, and then you boost, and then it's now I'm ahead of you. I've won. You can beat the rubber banding quite easily just by timing a late boost. It's well, I will say though, all that aside, the online implementation surprisingly decent. Played a few rounds online. It runs very well. None of that usual racing game cars skipping about all over the place kind of thing that I feel like a lot of racing games still have to this day. It was a pretty decent experience all around. I won most of the races, so that helped. I think I don't think that's just me though. I think that's a testament to the design in some respects. That there never was a race where players seemed too far apart. I think the rubber banding system actually worked pretty well there. If it's even happening in multiplayer, I don't really know. I don't know what it's doing exactly, but the races we were in weren't too widely spread, which is nice. And it throws in an extra couple of modes for that as well. So there's a speed mode where you can't drop below a certain speed, otherwise you start losing health, and that speed gets increasingly fast. And it kind of zones you, zone in Wipeout as well. So the speed of the cars goes up as the race goes on.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I think that's actually that's a pretty cool mode actually. It's well done. Because it means some players can get knocked out early and they'll have to wait, which sucks for everyone. Sucks for those, but the tension for trying to keep your speed up towards the end is enough to keep that interesting. I think it could do with being a bit faster towards the end. It like caps out on the last lap or so, and it doesn't get quicker past that point. And it's like, nah, ramp it up, mate. Just keep going. make it faster.
Just make it fast.
But anyway, I think that's cool. And I think they have a cops and robbers mode, which I think is way less successful. I really don't quite understand what the tactic is for winning that, because I always seem to be put as a robber, and I always seem to just stay alive the whole time, which seems to be what the robbers are supposed to do. But I don't necessarily win because those players that get turned into cops do a decent job at being cops and then earn more money than me that way. It's weird. I don't quite know what the strategy for winning that is. And that's it. That is that game. That is everything about that game. I might play a bit more of it. See if I can crack expert mode. It's on Game Pass, so knock yourself out if you've got that. Yeah, it's all right, but didn't blow me away, unfortunately. What else we got? I finished playing Tell Me Why. I actually stuck with it in the end.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but heartbreak.
It's not episodic, right? This is.
I mean, it sort of is.
No, I meant literally, not like how the game's laid
out. I think you have. I think it is in the sense that you don't buy each individual episode, but you can. I don't know how they're selling it actually, but like because it posed a problem for my Xbox actually how this was delivered. I think when you first download it off Game Pass, it gives you Chapter 1,
right?
But only downloads Chapter 1. So when you finish Chapter 1, you then have to go and say, "Oh, you need the rest of it," and it goes, "Oh, you already own the rest of it." Okay, great. Now I'm just going to download Chapter 2 now. So it's delivering it that way, but I don't know if you can buy into just Chapter 1 and then.
But it all came out at the same time anyway, so.
Well, see, no, it didn't. Like Chapter 3 weirdly came out late.
Well,
Chapters 1 and 2 launched at the same time. Like recently, like 3, like not that far after launch, admittedly, but still after launch. So I don't know quite what was going on there. And I think you can tell. There's something weirdly different about the presentation in Chapter 3. Like there's something like some of the animations don't look as good, or some of the mouth work doesn't look as good in Chapter 3. It's odd. It's like it's subtle, but it's there. Like some of the mouth movements seem way more exaggerated than they did in previous chapters. It's bizarre. But yeah, for those that don't know, it's the new adventure game released by Don't Nod, who are the Life is Strange guys, and we'll be doing that. Was it Twin Mirror or something like that? They've got another game in the works. It's out relatively soon in theory. Yeah, and I covered it a little bit last time, and we'd got through most of Chapter 1 before hitting a nasty glitch before last time, which basically meant I had to replay an entire bit of it again, which was frustrating. It's not as polished as I think it should be in general. But the bit I want to talk about really here is where the story goes, because that's obviously the most important part of a game like this. And I do think it gets a bit better in Chapter 2. Chapter 1 I thought was far too slow, far too much character setup, far too much
exposition stations,
and just bad direction in places, like shots that were too long, like as you're waiting for things to happen, stuff like that. And Chapter 2 is way more up tempo. There's a pretty decent sequence where you're I'm trying not to be too spoilery, but you're basically doing some detective work somewhere where you shouldn't be, and there's a bit of tension because it's on a bit of a time limit, whether or not that's like slightly virtualized or not by the game to make it always feel like there's a tension there. I'm not too sure, but yeah, that sequence was pretty good because you're actually starting to learn more about what's going on. You're starting to unravel the mystery. And that felt pretty good. I think the game loses me in the slower stuff, which I know is kind of what Don't Nod are known for. They, focusing on the little things and having these quiet interactions, but I just don't. Here, at least, I haven't played Life is Strange or its sequel or its offshoot, but it doesn't gel with me at all.
Not engaged.
I'm not even sure it's good. I don't think it's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
check.
I mean, it definitely happens.
Yeah, I sort of just want those sequences to be over so I can get back to the actual mystery. And that goes through into chapter 3 as well, which actually has fewer of those like slow scenes. Like chapter 3 is more about the mystery, the characters being kind of having a bit of there's more tension within the characters, and they're kind of unhappy with each other at that point, or at least they were in my playthrough. Who knows? It's one of those sort of like choices matter games, so maybe there's a way of playing it where they're not so annoyed at each other. Not sure, but I'm not sure there is the way that played out. Chapter 3 focuses more on the mystery side, which again I like. I prefer that direction in this. My sort of biggest problem with the story, though, is that I was logically ahead of it.
Right, you could see exactly where it was going.
Yeah, I had worked out, or more to the point, like the evidence that I was finding in the game presented a set of scenarios that the characters didn't realize for far too long.
But you realize, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm not really. Now I've got to wait for you to catch me up, which is frustrating. And even the final choice in the game, I'm sat there thinking, well, logically, everything that I've seen so far points to this option, but emotionally, I can see why the characters would want to go with this other option. So me being like clearly I've got to do what's right here. This game is talking all about truth the entire time, and finding the truth. I went for the option that seemed like the obvious truth. And then get presented with one of those like Telltale style, here are the players that picked this questions after the game. And I've never seen a split like this in any one of these games before, where the split was 100% of players picked what I thought was the emotional option.
Oh.
And 0% picked what was logically the super obvious outcome to me.
100%, that's weird.
That sounds like
100%. Yeah, I mean, I hope so, because otherwise my faith in humanity, in making logical decisions, has dropped significantly. It was weird. Just
faith in the people that bought this game, anyway.
Well, yeah. I mean, or maybe they didn't see the same evidence I did. Maybe they missed certain clues. Maybe they didn't see
but it can't
all
possibly be 100%. That would be ridiculous.
I know. It just seems nuts, doesn't it?
I mean, that can't be right. I mean, literally, some people would have just picked the other thing just by random.
Yeah, maybe. Because I sat there for a while on that last choice, sitting there going, you know what? I actually don't know what choice to make. It's because there's a hard decision. It sort of boils, without being spoilery, it boils down to a decision of I think this is the truth, but I think the characters are going to have a harder time dealing with this truth. And the game kind of leads you to think about that sort of question. And that might be one of the best things the game does, is right in that last bit of chapter 3, where it's starting to make you think about those things. Whereas I kind of didn't care up to that point. Yeah. I don't know, as I say, not familiar with the rest of Don't Nod's work, but hey, I wasn't, again, not super taken with this one. And it's that's all of the, that's even if you take all of the transgender stuff out of it. The game starts focusing on that less and less as it goes on, which is fine, I guess. But I don't. It feels like that was just there, rather than, which is I guess a good thing. I don't know if they in chapter 1 it felt like a message, but in the rest of the game it felt like it's just a thing that exists now. which was a better way of dealing with that, I think. Yeah, I don't know. All of that aside, like, doesn't matter about that topic or anything. It's like it just didn't flow.
Yeah.
Again, okay, not bad, just okay.
And now you've told us why.
I have, and I don't have to tell you again until Game of the Year. Maybe we can just gloss over it in a brief mention. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've been playing is been spending a lot of time in Spriitfarer still. I really like that game. It's
Cool.
there's not a lot to it. It's pretty simple, but it's really hitting that, like, there's always something to do thing. There's always, like, I've always got a crop to water. I've always got another bit of material I need to make. There's always a carrot on the stick, and there's always something going on. Oh, I've got cooking to do. Right, the cooking's done. Right, no, I've got to go pick that up. Oh, in the meantime, my chickens have laid an egg. Great, I better go pick up the egg so I can use that in the cooking and cook something new because I've never had an egg before. And while that's happening, I'm making the boat travel to somewhere else because I need to go to this place to talk to this person to satisfy a quest that I've put on. And it's like there's always this juggling act going on, like, all the time. And it's while there's not that necessarily many interesting things you're actually doing, because everything's always happening, I can't stop. I just can't. I just keep going.
There's always another hook.
There's always something like, oh, I can do this one more thing now. Right, great. I'll go do that. Oh, another hour passes.
So now go and play Stardew. Basically the same thing.
Yeah, I mean,
although Stardew does have the days, I guess,
Yeah,
a sort of
time
more
thing.
delimited sort of.
I mean,
time.
this does as well. This has a day-night cycle, but I get to the point where I don't. At the start of the game, that's an issue because at night time you can't move the boat. The boat only works during the day. So at first that's kind of a limitation because you don't have enough to do on the boat to keep you busy at night. But now I do. Now at night I can do my maintenance while the boat's not moving, and there's still plenty to do while I'm figuring out my next move. Or if I've just happened to leave the boat in a town, I can go do everything in town overnight because the people in town don't go to sleep. It's just the boat movement thing that's a issue here, which I assume is wildly different in Stardew. You've got to keep that rhythm in Stardew.
Well, sure, but you're still. I mean, in Stardew, you're always waiting for something to happen tomorrow. Is the trick for Stardew? It's the same effect. It's just more like broken up into days where you're like, oh, the crops are going to come in tomorrow, or tomorrow the shop is open so I can actually buy seeds, or tomorrow is the one day that this one person will be in this one specific place that I need to talk to them.
I think where that hasn't worked necessarily for me is that I'm not 100% sure I've been playing this particularly optimally, which makes sense first run through. But I think it's taking far longer because the pacing has slowed right down since the start of the game. It seems to take ages for me to do very much, and there's a lot of the hand holding completely leaves you at one point. Like there's a point towards the start of the game, obviously everyone's telling you to do this thing and you need to buy this thing for the boat so we can now do this thing, and there comes a point where that just sort of stops and it's like, well, you need these materials to get this thing, and you're like, where do I get my materials like that? Where do I find that stuff? And then it becomes like, well, okay, I've got to figure out what else have I got to do. It will eventually lead me to that,
Right.
and I think I've spent far too long jumping those hurdles sometimes, where it's just like, I need ash, right? There was a point in the game where it's like where I needed ash, and it's like, I don't know where that is. I've not found any anywhere, right? So I need to get to I guess I need to try and figure out a way to get past these lines on the map that block me. How do I do that? Oh, right, there's a ship upgrade for ice breaking. Sorry, no, I had ice breaking at that point. It's like, oh, I need some other upgrade ice to get through whatever this is. Oh, right, that also has materials that I've never heard of to get that upgrade. Bollocks. Right, how do I do that? And I think it took me far too long to figure some of that out. There was a point where I needed glass, and I didn't figure out how to make glass for a while. stuff like that. And it's like where the game basically doesn't tell me. But other stuff is just like it's fun to figure out. It's like, now I've got a crusher. I can stick sunflower seeds in them and turn them into oil, so I can now cook a whole variety of other stuff. I can now fry. And now I can feed the. Not that cooking makes a huge difference, but like now I've got more dishes. I can try and figure out what each passenger's favorite dish is. And there's loads of dishes, so that's actually really difficult. I don't know. I quite like it. It's chill vibes, man.
Chill vibes.
It's also one of those games that I wish didn't suffer from horrendous frame rate issues at times. Like there are certain events where the screen is filled with too much stuff and the game really tanks in frame rate, and it's like maybe this wouldn't happen on a new Xbox.
Right, yeah.
Or if I was playing on PC.
Won't be long till you have a new Xbox of some kind, so.
But yeah, I like it. I'm enjoying it. I want to make progress faster in it, though. That's my one takeaway. I wish I progressed slightly quicker in it. But it's good.
Quite good.
There's some excellent animation in places of that game. There really is. I'm particularly fond of how you shear sheep and how the sheep has a very concerned look on its face when you begin.
Right.
It's like its eye just suddenly open. Is normally quite small and kind of that lethargic look that some animals have. But when you get the scissors out, its eye just suddenly turns into a full circle. And you're like, it's like, oh damn. little details like that, really nice. That's me. That's my week. That's my 2 weeks. That's my podcast.
It's a podcast. Yeah. Coolio. I haven't got around to playing Tony Hawk yet, but that's the next thing.
Yeah, boy.
Busy week at work. Yeah. I mean, it looks awesome.
Yeah, it really does.
I had a quick go and it's like 60 frames per second, and yeah, it's really nice.
Beautiful.
Immediately bailing all over the place because I can't remember how far to rotate before landing something, but it won't be long before I'm fully into it.
Yeah. A lot of people have been saying it's like, it's it doesn't take you long to go back into your old groove, and then it's like, I can just walk through this game because I remember playing it for hours before, and all of it comes back.
I don't know how quick it will come back or whether I have to learn it all again, but that's fine. Yeah, cool. Sweet. And then, so watch out for Factorio videos and Oberdin videos and various others on our YouTube channel. And that'll do us a podcast, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another one of those. So do join us for that.
I've done a podcast.
We done a podcast. Goodbye. Bye.